subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Totsuki also has a student like this from now on. But it turns out that imitation is also flawed, and he can't copy everything exactly. 35 after Totsuki heard this, he laughed and said, "Looks like classmate Lin is taking me seriously today. On the first class I came, I questioned the instructor. I can tell you responsibly that imitation can definitely be achieved exactly the same." After Lin Fan heard this, he calmly smiled and said, "Really? What if not?" Wow, another uproar. The dialogue between the two is full of gunpowder, and they all go in one direction. However, the students have not waited to speak out. Totsuki stepped forward and said with a smile, "Student Lin, are you sure you want to question me?" Lin Fan also looked at Totsuki and replied, "I'm questioning you because I don't approve of what you said." Totsuki straightened his back, looked at Lin Fan, and said with a smile, "Since that's the case, why don't you try it?" The meaning of this is already obvious. Totsuki made the words clear with a mocking expression. Without any hesitation, Lin Fan replied, "Of course there is no problem. I am very happy to accompany you, but I don't know if you know Totsuki's rules. Since you want to try it, you can't try it casually. You have to pay a price." Totsuki replied earnestly, "Oh, is that right? I've heard about special rules like Totsuki, and I'm very interested, so..." Student Lin, what are your conditions? As Chapter 155, Breaking the Magic 8 Array. It is an honor to use it on you. Subscribe. Lin Fan smiled. This guy is straight to the point, not ambiguous at all. It is even more able to confirm Lin Fan's thoughts. This is for him. Since he won the Elite Chef competition, Tsuki student group, he won Nikiri Arena and became famous in the food circle instantly. The crowd wasn't interested in his win over Nikiri Arena. Rather, the cooking skills that Lin Fan used in the competition were very shocking. So, there are many possibilities in the food circle. Jealous. I wish I could challenge Lin Fan right away. And because of my lack of ability, I work harder. There's another. It's only recently spread in Tokyo, the underground cook. They also call themselves late-night cooks. As the name suggests, a late-night gathering of chefs. This organization is mysterious. They have also spoken out intentionally or unintentionally, and they will definitely look for Lin Fan to compete. So, no matter what kind of Totsuki belongs to, since it came to Lin Fan's territory. So, at this time, Lin Fan put on a waistband and smiled. Since he came to my site, this happened again. How could I just let this thing pass easily? My condition, if you lose, it will prove that all your theories are fallacies and bullshit. So, get out of here immediately, Totsuki. 55. Totsuki doesn't need such an incompetent and self-righteous teacher. 55. After listening to Totsuki, he was stunned and laughed. Lin Fan, you are as rumored. Your tone is really great. Also, this arrogant tone is really annoying. 39. Maybe it's because Totsuki hasn't been out of the elite for so long that a newcomer like you can't find Bae if you nod your head a little. You have no idea how difficult and dangerous it is to embark on the road of food. Then, let me end the myth you wrote earlier. If you lose, Totsuki smiled and said, "I don't need you to drop out of school. It's pointless. After all, if you lose, you will lose. But get out your kitchen utensils and bet." After Lin Fan heard it, he said indifferently, "Okay, it seems that this is the purpose of your visit, right? Which one did you like? Or bet it all on you? Although I'm mocking you." Totsuki was a little irritated, and these words obviously reduced him to nothing. So, he said angrily, "Don't be too proud of this classmate. Zhuanlong pot. This cookware looks very interesting." After Lin Fan heard this, he immediately put away his smile and stepped forward, looking at Totsuki with a serious face. "Young teacher, do you know what you're talking about? Turn the dragon pot? You want to bet on him? First of all, it depends on whether you are worthy or not, whether you are qualified. The condition of your withdrawal from Totsuki is not worthy of me taking it out. Even, you don't deserve me to bet on it. You're not qualified for every kitchen utensil I have. But You can turn the dragon pot if you want, and take your life, dare you? Otherwise, you are like a certain super official. Stop eating. After all, this AAA delicacy in the world is a waste for you if you dare to gamble on this life. If you lose, you will only be able to live on a nutrient solution for the rest of your life. Don't eat any food, dare you? Suzuki was stunned. Seeing this, Lin Fan grinned, pressed step by step, and replied, I don't know if you dare, but I dare. How difficult is it to lose a job if you lose a school? Will a chef try his best to cook? Just bet on one casually. Is it really that Totsuki is so good here? Come here if you want, and leave if you want to go. Do you dare? I'll ask you dare or dare. If you dare, turn the dragon pot. I don't hesitate to take it out and make a bet. 39. If you don't dare, it only shows that you are a coward. Wow. All the students were frightened by Lin Fan's words. Usually they gamble on wealth, drop out of school, and plunder resources. Like this, it's the first time I've seen it. Then a student suddenly shouted excitedly, Exciting! Shurji should be like this, to give everything, to bet everything, and then to go all out. As soon as the words came out, the other students in the classroom immediately followed suit. It's bet. This is Tsuki's real halberd bet. 39 Suzuki was stunned, obviously surprised by Lin Fan's boldness. He didn't expect that Lin Fan was really in line with the hot-blooded teenagers, and he really rushed forward. But, thinking of this, Suzuki suddenly became excited too. Interesting, really interesting, this is Tsuki. Eating halberd is really a very interesting cooking competition. The culinary competition that risked my life, it suits me so well. I promise you. Wow, another uproar. In an instant, the students were fried. Pick up the phone, and the news spreads out as quickly as possible. In just a few minutes, next door, next to opposite building nearby, as long as they were students in Tsuki, they all rushed over. The classroom was crowded with onlookers. Unprecedented and unprecedented. It should be the first freshman in the history of Tsuki to officially initiate a halberd meal to his mentor, and it's the price of such excitement. This Suzuki teacher is also very unreasonable to play cards. These two are on the bar. It seems that Lin Fan has met an opponent this time. Will they be evenly matched? Or after this battle, Lin Fan fell from the altar? It's too exciting betting on your life. If you lose your whole life, you can only rely on nutrient solution to survive, and you can't even take a bite of food. It's too cruel. 35, it's all ruthless. There's a lot of discussion inside and out. The school's professional reviewers came to the scene one after another. In the classroom, the three judges sat down and looked at the two of them. You two, since everything has been decided, let's start. Yes, 1 hour is enough, I think. Then, what ingredients will be used next? The two of you will discuss or decide by drawing lots. Each of the three judges spoke. Lin Fan nodded and returned to his previous smile. Then, looking at the ingredients area, he calmly said, What are you going to do? What are the ingredients for? Suzuki came up and said with a smile, Since it is imitation, then let me show you what imitation is. True imitation, not just imitating, but as long as I can use any kitchen utensils, I can have that person's abilities. I can imitate the cooking exactly, Suzuki said proudly. Lin Fan shook his head, sneered, picked up a pigeon, and played with it. If nothing happened, he laughed. Is there such a novel cooking skill? But I don't plan to use kitchen utensils this round. I'm going to see how you beat me. Oh yes, by the way, let me tell you more about the cooking skills I'm going to use next. The name is Breaking the 8 Demons. 35, this young teacher. Then I'm welcome. You can do it yourself. If you can figure out, 35 Lin Fan's face was full of disdain and contempt. I didn't choose the ingredients too carefully, so I made do with the pigeon in my hand and returned to the cooking table. Suzuki was startled. The arrogance of this Lin Fan made him outrageous. He thought that he was already very arrogant, but he didn't expect to see Lin Fan today, and only then did he know that there are such people in the world who are not afraid of the unknown. So, Suzuki also took a pigeon and said with a smile, The subject matter has already been determined. Imitate. I'll let you know what it means to imitate your ability and imitate your cooking. I want you to know that everything I say is the truth. If I can't do it, I lose. How? In front of the cooking table, Lin Fan has already started to process the ingredients. Not taking it seriously at all, he nodded perfunctorily. After careful observation, Suzuki took the exact same portion of the ingredients that Lin Fan took. No more, no less, just right. Suzuki didn't start the action right away, but watched carefully for a moment. See Lin Fan take it easy and cut the whole pigeon into pieces. There are no big ups and downs or amazing kitchen skills, just ordinary knives. Just put down the kitchen knife, Suzuki laughed. Can you use your kitchen knife if you don't mind? Lin Fan was stunned for a moment, looked at Suzuki, and nodded indifferently. And have no concerns. And Suzuki quickly took Lin Fan's kitchen knife in his hand. An astonishing scene happened. Suzuki is like a direct computer copy and paste after the kitchen knife is in hand. Completely copy Lin Fan's meat cutting action one by one. The movement of raising the hand and the strength of the knife were completely imitated without any deviation. At this time, everyone is watching. Shocked. Lovely dividing line chapter 156, oil-consuming fried pigeon meat. This cheap life is mine. Please subscribe. Everyone was surprised by Suzuki's copy. Although everyone can understand, what is the core of Lin Fan's swordsmanship? From a naked eye alone, Suzuki has done the exact same imitation. In Tsuki, once again, the unbelievable happened. Immediately, fry the pan. My eyes aren't full, right? Mr. Suzuki actually copied Lin Fan's swordsmanship. That's right, I see it clearly. Immortals fighting? 95. The new generation of chefs in the food industry are getting more and more powerful. They are no longer the traditional cooking competition of Eizan Zhijin. Will Lin Fan lose? If he can copy it one-to-one, he will lose, right? Then he is in danger. It's really scary. After seeing Mr. Suzuki's operation, now I feel that it's not surprising that any novel cooking skills are appearing. It looks like this Lin Fan has made a mistake. I didn't expect Mr. Suzuki to do this. In this case, the myth of Lin Fan's invincibility will be shattered. The onlookers discussed frantically. There were also many teachers who came over to watch. The discussion was loud. Suzuki listened in his ears with a confident look on his face, as if he was winning. Lin Fan was destined to lose. However, Lin Fan was unmoved. The noise around him didn't bother him at all. Still as if nothing happened, calmly cooking. Suzuki on the side, feeling menacing. This picture makes people feel very familiar. Eizan Zhijin's Lin Fan is also so aggressive, knocking down Tsuki's elites one by one. Now at this moment, in the eyes of everyone, Lin Fan is like those elites who have fallen and are pressed by Suzuki's momentum. Such calmness seems to have been caused by being suppressed. Everyone thinks this way. Lin Fan, who has been in the limelight for a while, is likely to end in this halberd. And Suzuki's purpose is simple: kitchenware and Lin Fan's fame. Even if everyone thinks that Lin Fan is lost, they still take it seriously. Next, Suzuki followed the example of Lin Fan, opened fire, and heated oil. After the pigeon meat was put into the pot, it collided with the boiling oil, producing a rich aroma. There was an uproar again. To everyone's surprise, even the stir-fry action was exactly the same as Lin Fan's. Looks like Lin Fan has met his opponent this time. A judge spoke calmly. The remaining two judges nodded in succession. After a while, almost at the same time, the two brought the fried pigeon meat out of the pan. Lin Fan remained expressionless as he brought the dishes to the jury and said, "Fried pigeon meat with oil." 99, and Suzuki followed closely, smiling proudly. "Don't guess, mine also consumes more fuel than pigeon meat." As he said that, he looked at Lin Fan with a mocking expression. Suzuki's mouth moved slightly. Lin Fan read from his lips that Suzuki said, "You're lost." So bursting with confidence, as if in momentum, Suzuki has already won an overwhelming victory. Everyone not only shook their heads and sighed, when and where Lin Fan was at such a disadvantage. From the first time he stood on the stage of Tsuki, Lin Fan has never been weak. Even before, when people had the illusion that he would lose, he had never seen him want to be so low-key today. The students shook their heads and whispered, it's over. Looking at Lin Fan like this, 80% of the time you're going to lose. This time I really met a great god." So how do you say that sentence? You should keep a low profile, otherwise you have to be like Lin Fan. Yes, but fortunately, Ji's bet did not make Lin Fan drop out of school. For chefs of their realm, losing is losing. Is it still important to drop out of school? Yes, it's a pity. If Lin Fan can keep a low profile, the future may be bright. Yeah, this is about to follow up with the chef competition. If this happens, Lin Fan's reputation will drop. Crazy the voices of the crowd made Suzuki feel that winning was a matter of words. The ticket is in hand. Looking at Lin Fan, he still doesn't speak. His face is calm. Then, the three judges began to come together and look at the two dishes carefully. Look left and right. The judge said, just looking at the appearance, these two are really the same. Even the scent is exactly the same. Another judge said, yes, Mr. Suzuki's cooking skills are really amazing. The last judge nodded and said, so far, Lin Fan's cooking skills are unrepeatable. I didn't expect that Suzuki could replicate the cooking so easily, and his cooking skills are comparable to Lin Fan's. I admire, really admire. 5, then I'll try Lin Fan's first. As the judges spoke, they subconsciously picked up the pigeon meat and ate a piece into their mouths. Chew carefully, taste carefully, and feel the charm of this stir-fried pigeon meat. The tenderness of pigeon meat itself is different from that of poultry, such as chickens and ducks. In addition to stir-frying, through short-term cooking, the meat quality of pigeon meat is just cooked, not raw or over-frying. There are also fuel-guzzling options. Fresh, tender, fragrant. It seems such an ordinary fried pigeon meat, but it contains the chef's profound cooking skills. If you don't have experience for cooking like this, the oil temperature, the speed and frequency of stirring, the temperature of the iron pan, these are all indispensable. Even if there's a difference of 0.5 degrees in the middle temperature, the final taste will be different. The judge was talking. Suddenly, in my mind, there seemed to be the sound of beating gongs and drums, and pictures of fairies dancing. Everyone is praising this oil-consuming stir-fried pigeon meat. It is a wonderful dish. The judges were moved and intoxicated. Can't wait to take off now. This picture, as Totsuki's students and teachers, has long been taken for granted. The judges completely swept away the pigeon meat. Then he looked at Suzuki's plate. One of the judges nodded and said, well, Suzuki's way, I don't know if it will be the same as Lin Fan's. The three judges stood up at the same time. The onlookers took a deep breath. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Suzuki still looked at Lin Fan proudly. He even thought about how to step on each other next. The judges ate it in one bite. Chew and savor carefully. Not. The knee-jerk reaction is, it's delicious, as expected of Mr. Suzuki. This oil-consuming fried pigeon meat is also well done. It's really delicious. 35. The right heat creates just the right quality of meat. Yeah, delicious. The pigeon meat is delicious and juicy, and the taste is very good. 35. With that said, the judges picked up another piece and tasted it carefully. Wow. In an instant, the frying pan was inside and out. Lost. I think Lin Fan lost. Suzuki's attitude became even more arrogant, and he laughed wildly. Lin Fan. Didn't think so? For a long time, Totsuki, the ever-winning general, this year's very controversial chef in the food circle, even has this day. I didn't expect to lose to me, but it doesn't matter. This is inevitable. After all, the ability gap between us is here. Lin Fan still had that calm expression. After thinking for a while, he finally showed his first smile after cooking. Did you misunderstand something? Suzuki asked in surprise. What did you say? Lin Fan looked at the jury. See the judges still tasting, piece by piece. People are puzzled. The judges couldn't resist eating one piece after another, which shows that Suzuki's cooking was flawless. However, at this moment, a judge questioned after eating pigeon meat again. This delicious is delicious, nothing wrong, but why don't you feel that way? Everyone couldn't help but say in unison, which feeling? Another judge nodded and said, yeah, Lin Fan's oil-guzzling pigeon meat is delicious, for sure, but it's also pleasing. The judge on the side nodded and said, yes, it seems to be a fairy dish. When I taste the food, I have a wonderful feeling of being in a fairyland on Earth. The fairies beat gongs and drums and dance, and the taste is amazing. But Suzuki's recipe seems to be a simple imitation of Lin Fan's recipe, but it has no soul. Another judge nodded and said, "Yeah, boring, no soul. Eating down is like chewing wax." 99 Wow shocked. This sudden reversal. Suzuki couldn't believe it, didn't know what happened, looked at Lin Fan with a puzzled expression. Then he looked at the judges and said, "How is it possible? What soul is not a soul? It's a 1-to-1 ratio of ingredients, even his knife skills." With that said, he looked at Lin Fan and said, "Don't you dare to admit it. The recipe I made, the recipe process, even your seasonings are all the same. Is that what you Tsuki are like? Would it be wrong?" Poof, Lin Fan finally couldn't help laughing. "This young teacher, I've been holding back for a long time, really. I want to be more patient. But I really can't help it. You make me laugh for a while." Chapter 157 Lost. Conspiracy in advance. Please subscribe. Faced with Lin Fan's sudden change of state, everyone was shocked. More of a bummer. What's the situation? Was it pretended just now? So, Lin Fan has been acting weak. Is he actually pretending? Understood. Let the opponent be strong. Let go of vigilance and fight back in a wave. No matter what the process is, won't it be enough to win in the end? Awesome. This guy Lin Fan has so much thought. I'll just say, this doesn't fit Lin Fan's character. Why did he suddenly become silent? 99. It's not so much to tell the other party to let go of their vigilance. It's better to say that they didn't care in the first place. There were discussions in and out of the classroom. Suzuki panicked. More is unacceptable. The more Lin Fan laughed, the happier he said, "I've been silent all the time. Do you really think it's easy to be bullied? What if I copied my recipe? I can take all the dishes I've made and write down the recipes. The point is, even if you take it, you still can't do it. Know why? 99, simply 100, is that you are too weak. My ability can be said to surpass cooking. As Eishi Tsukasa said before, every ingredient has a soul. So is the cooking. Even if you copy it one by one, you can't learn the soul of this chef." Suzuki shook his head vigorously. Lin Fan turned around and reserved a special copy. It was long expected that Suzuki would be in this state. With the power of the 8 demon-breaking arrays, how could this guy move? Cooking skills that require inner strength. Don't even think about it in this life. When Suzuki picked up the fried pigeon meat, he couldn't understand what Lin Fan said, until one bite into the mouth. Kakaka, the delicious and juicy aroma of pigeon meat spreads to the whole mouth instantly. Then, beat the gongs and drums. Suzuki seemed to have entered a fairyland, and the fairies were dancing gracefully. All the fairy families in this fairyland are all serving him alone. The food is delicious enough to fly. It turns out that the soul that Lin Fan mentioned is such a state. Suzuki didn't think too much subconsciously, and the reflection at the moment was comfort. He hopes to stay in this comfort zone forever and never want to go out again. This is the so-called soul of ingredients. Thinking of this, Suzuki subconsciously couldn't help but sigh. It's really delicious. 35. I feel the soul of this plate of pigeon meat. Kakaka in an instant. Suzuki himself entered a state of bursting clothes. Intoxicated in self-consciousness. Shocked. At this moment, Lin Fan smiled and patted Suzuki's shoulder. "Hey, it's almost done. I'm eating the halberd now." Suzuki was instantly brought back to reality. It is also oil-guzzling pigeon meat, but Lin Fan made it, and compared with his own, the difference is not a little bit. Moreover, Suzuki is still not satisfied. "I want to taste pigeon meat again and return to Wonderland again." However, Suzuki is suddenly interrupted by Lin Fan and returns to reality. When asked if it was delicious or not, he suddenly froze. "I don't want to admit it." Unexpected things happened, and Suzuki even had a different heart. "I thought not to admit it, but said, okay, delicious." 35. This fried pigeon meat is more like life. It is a soul food. You will never forget it after you eat it. Suzuki opened his mouth and came. After speaking, I was stunned and wanted to slap myself. Why couldn't I control it? Subconsciously, he looked at Lin Fan. Suddenly realized, could it be Lin Fan's dish? Taking back this thought again. If that's the case, the student in front of him would be terrifying. It's like a monster. At this time, this is the real victory, and defeat has already been decided, just waiting for a word from the judges. The judge on the edge said, "I vote for Lin Fan." As Suzuki said, "This is a dish with soul." 35, the middle judge, said, "Yes, this dish brings back so many wonderful memories. It was so delicious, so wonderful." The final judge also said, "I also vote for Lin Fan." Although Suzuki's cooking is great, but it's two different things with Lin Fan's cooking. 35, pat, pat, pat. People inside and out subconsciously began to applaud. The three judges stood up at the same time. "Okay, what we have to do has been done, and the rest is your personal grievance." After the judge said, the three left the classroom. The students cheered and began to rhythm. "The bet is your life. Then you will take your life." 35. I thought that Suzuki came to Tsuki to be a teacher because he wanted to prove his strength, but I didn't expect that he was here to make a mess, and it's a shame that I worshipped him before. 35 FK. So weak. Lin Fan is great. It's interesting to be willing to admit defeat. This life belongs to Lin Fan. How can I know that this person didn't eat secretly? Should a special person be sent to take care? Suzuki stood in the crowd. No matter how they shouted and killed, they never responded. He didn't expect the ending to be like this. Like other chefs, he failed to defeat Lin Fan. Almost, the dawn is already in sight, but it has failed recently. Suzuki spoke for a while. Seeing this, Lin Fan stepped forward and said with a smile, "At the beginning, I really didn't expect it to come from my kitchen utensils. Not only that, but by the way, are you going to smash the scene?" 99. Although I don't have any special feelings for Tsuki, but here, as long as I'm here for one day. That's my jurisdiction. I don't care who you are, or maybe there are other purposes, as long as you dare to cause trouble in the future. I might really kill you. Suzuki took a deep breath. Lin Fan leaned over and whispered, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you something. You may not know that there's a magical combination of ingredients in this world. It may be that nothing happens when you eat it, but some elements stay in the body for a week. 39, then it will happen, and then..." Suzuki was taken aback. Lin Fan sneered and continued, "And no one will know it without knowing it." 99. After speaking, Lin Fan straightened up and looked at Suzuki. In an instant, Suzuki looked terrified. More than that, he was extremely panicked inside, and his back was chilled. Never considered the truth of what Lin Fan said. The subconscious reaction was that he rushed to the side and vomited. As if possessed by a demon, he frantically began to dig his throat, trying to spit out what he just ate. The students were amazed. I have absolutely no idea what's going on here. However, Lin Fan walked behind Suzuki and said with a smile, "I would like to accept the bet. You lost. Then I'll spend some money and find someone to take care of you. Certainly. You are lucky this time, and your life can still survive. But if you don't listen to your advice, or you are greedy, and you can't help but taste some food, it's hard for me to promise you what will happen." After Lin Fan finished speaking, he left the classroom silently like no one else. Although the students didn't know, Lin Fan said what he meant. The wall fell, and everyone pushed, and the remaining students surrounded Suzuki, greeting frantically. Suzuki looked at the students around him and was insulted like never before. Not only did he lose all his face, but also in exchange for this ending. Of course, there is also what Lin Fan said. Although he doesn't know the truth, he doesn't dare to try it easily. Otherwise, Suzuki recalled Lin Fan's words just now, which made him horrified. Those who could say those words can be seen to be extremely ruthless. He stood up silently, trying his best to ignore the students who despised him and laughed at him. Quietly leave Tsuki. Not far from Tsuki campus, a figure stood in a corner, looking at the Tsuki gate from a distance. It's Nakiri Thistle. What happened just now is all over the place. Seeing him pick up his phone and dial. "Hey, I think you all know what happened just now, right? I think the Elite 10 Council, it's time to put to good use." Cute dividing line. Chapter 158, Elite 10 Council Rebellion. Subscription B in Tsuki. Lin Fan and Suzuki launched an unprecedented halberd and drove him out of Tsuki. Like a bomb, it blew up the entire food circle in an instant. Suzuki himself has never appeared in the food circle before. If such a person leaves, they will leave, and they will not attract public attention. This matter of life gambling shocked people in the food circle. It turns out that the halberd can still die like this. More and more people are more and more curious about Lin Fan. There are many popular people. A month later, Lin Fan's competition with elite graduate chefs sold out early. Hard to get a vote, and it was resold by people with intentions, and there was a phenomenon that tickets were sold at high prices and could not be bought. On Lin Fan's side, various media scrambled to get the first exclusive interview on the screen. Since yesterday, the doors of both Polar Star Dorm and Tsuki's office have been broken. Tadakoro Megumi was so busy that he refused all of them, according to Lin Fan's wishes. Dong dong dong, the office door was knocked again. Student Lin. Sure enough, it was still Tadakoro Megumi. Come in. As soon as Lin Fan finished speaking, Tadakoro Megumi hurriedly pushed the door and came in. 08's expression is a little nervous. In Lin Fan's opinion, this is normal. Suddenly, her workload has increased a lot. However, Tadakoro Megumi strode forward and said, Lin Fan, it's not good. Something happened. The council is over there. Lin Fan put down the materials of the Moon Festival and raised his head. What happened to the council? Isn't everything normal? The application for the booth of the Moon Festival has also been approved unanimously, and the Totsuki Cooking Research Institutes have also unanimously approved the funding adjustment. What else is there? If those reporters, the other members want me to attend some events in the name of Totsuki, 35, or maybe some interviews, exclusive interviews, etc., in order to increase Tsuki's popularity, I refuse this. 99. I've said it many times, I don't have time, and I don't want to do that. Tadakoro Megumi hurriedly shook his head and said, No, it's not like that. It really happened. In the conference room, members of the council argued. 35 Lin Fan frowned slightly, got up, and said speechlessly, This group of people is really idle. Meeting room, even at the door, I heard Nakiri Irina's voice inside. Nakiri Irina, what do you mean? Why reform? Isn't it inexplicable? Why did you go early? The Moon Festival is coming soon. Do you have to rush to this juncture? As I said, at that time, various associations used a competition system to obtain additional funds. Isn't this also unanimous? Hearing this, Lin Fan really wanted to know about it. It should be about the various research societies. Squeak! The door was pushed open, and the council members turned back to see Lin Fan. Nakiri Irina took a deep breath and sat down, still indifferently said, Exactly, 99. Lin Fan is here. Then this matter. Let's settle it in person today. 35 Akakubo Tao saw Lin Fan, hugged the bear, and said with a smile, That's right, let's solve it. 9. It's getting more and more interesting, huh? Xiaolin. Otherwise, you won't come back again. Saying that, Akikobo Momo looked at Kobayashi Genshin. Kobayashi Rinden smiled and said, Yes, I didn't expect that when graduation is approaching, I can still make some contributions to Tsuki, and it's worth it. Kobayashi Genshin said meaningfully. Lin Fan felt that things were not easy. He walked over silently, sat down and said, Okay, since I'm here, let's talk about what you just did. Why? Akakubo Momo glanced at Kobayashi Rintan. Xiaolin Rintan smiled and said, Then I'll tell you. We were just saying, in fact, there is no need for so many research societies to exist in Tsuki. Forget the previous proposal, and now we have to increase the funds for no reason. That's an unnecessary expense. So, our opinion is to directly cancel these useless seminars. Take advantage of the opportunity of this competition to directly eliminate those defeated research societies. 5. There is no need to let them exist. To make at first glance, Lin Fan seemed to be fine. Indeed, since they have already lost under this competition mechanism, they can become better. So, Lin Fan laughed. No problem. I think this proposal is good. After all, if you lose the competition, it's just that there will be no additional funds, and there will still be what you should have before. After a long time, I slack off. I think this proposal is good. Why is there a dispute? However, Nakiri Irina hurriedly replied. Of course there is a problem. You let her go on. Lin Fan looked at Kobayashi Jinshin, seeing Xiaolin Rintan showing his teeth. He smiled and said, so, the competition to the end must be the Excellent Research Society. Then, we are establishing a Central Food Organization 100 and abolishing the existing research societies and other autonomous operating groups. It is all attributed to the Central Food Organization, which is convenient for management. Xilai, for those students who are not very talented, just follow the steps, and it's not a good thing. Hearing this, Lin Fan suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. Those words were related to the man who entered that evening, and Suzuki who was driven away. Although they're not directly connected, they're all very coincidentally connected in this way. Establish a central food and unify the rest of the food research associations. But they each have no right to operate their own, and they all have to listen to the central agency. Isn't this just concentrating power in disguise? Thinking of this, Lin Fan can roughly guess it. So, with the attitude of watching a play, he smiled and said, so to speak. If it is said that a central food institution is established, then naturally someone will manage it. So, who is this person? A member of the Totsuki Elite 10 Council. After Xiaolin Longdan heard it, Xiaohu's teeth became more obvious, and he said with a smile, of course not. We have a more suitable person who can lead us. 99, 66-inch. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. Chapter 159, have you figured it out? Eat the halberd to quell the rebellion. Subscribe, Xiaolin Rintan said, picked up his mobile phone and made a call. The plan is indeed advanced. I think you can come. After hanging up the phone, Xiaolin Rindan smiled and said, wait a moment. After speaking, several people looked at each other. After a while, the office door was pushed open. After this person came in, Lin Fan was quite surprised, but it was expected. But Nakiri Irina, who was beside him, stood up instantly in horror. That's right, it's Nakiri Thistle. What's going on? Why are you here? Nakiri Irina hesitantly. Her body subconsciously retreats. It was as if those dusty, bad memories were opened up again in an instant. Lin Fan never understood what was going on. That's why, after seeing her father, her daughter turned out to have such a terrifying expression. Others don't quite understand. Nakiri Thistle walked in very calmly, looked around, and sighed. After so many years, nothing has changed here. Then he looked at Lin Fan and said with a smile, it is rumored that you are a person who plays cards out of common sense. How can you tolerate such an unchanging office? Yeah, Lin Fan, we meet again, but this time is a little different. After all, the opportunity has been given to you. You are not very rare. After speaking, Nakiri-ji looked at the crowd and said, after so many years, Tsuki has remained the same. This has also led to the fact that over the years, not only has it failed to continue its glory, but it has also been on the decline. This time, the blue competition, it was all thanks to a Lin Fan to make a name for yourself. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. If from the beginning, Tsuki would be the central gastronomy institution, where talented students like Lin Fan could unify and create more valuable food. Students without talent can just follow the steps, whereas it's still so troublesome to use. 35, so this time I come back to lead Tsuki back to the glory of Zhijin. 35 Lin Fan replied calmly. Wait, did you forget something? Who is in charge here at the moment? Just how many of them? Rindo Kobayashi laughed. The Elite 10 Council voted, right? As long as more than half of the people agree with Nakiri-senpai, then this plan will pass. And we will use Senior Nakiri as the new president. Nakiri Irina was surprised. It was conspiring to replace the current chief. 99. I'm the first to disagree. Next, Kobayashi Rintan in the second seat and Akakubo Momo in the third seat all agreed. And Akane Kubo Momo even pouted and said, I'm really fed up with Lin Fan's bad taste. If the votes pass this time, just get him away. I don't want to see him again. The fifth seat, Jo Izaoji, immediately stood up and replied, although I am very dissatisfied with Lin Fan. But reform to replace the current president, it's a different matter. I'm against it. The sixth-seat Ryo Hayama said with a smile. I agree. Yasushi Kurikiba Ryo also agreed. I agree too. And the rest of Yukihira SMA, Nikiri Arena, Tadakoro Megumi, and others refused without hesitation. Then in the next situation, everyone turned their attention to Ishiki Satoshi. Because of his vote, it matters. Nikiri G had a calm face and smiled. Ishishiki classmate, it's your turn. Like we said before, proponents exclaimed. Especially Tadakoro Megumi shook his head in disbelief. Ishiki Senpai already knew? Impossible. Senpai is a member of Polar Star Dorm 39, and everyone is like-minded. It is impossible for senior Ishiki to be like this. There must be difficulties. Tadakoro Megumi kept shaking his head. She couldn't believe it. The one who usually takes care of everyone. Ishiki Satoshi, who is also similar to everyone's ideals, will decide against it. Even if it is a different road, it is impossible to carry a group of people behind their backs and privately have such a deal with Nikiri Thistle. Seeing this, Nikiri G urged even more. Now it's only you. As long as you cast this vote, the future Tsuki, under my leadership, will return to its former glory. 35 Tadakoro Megumi was so upset, she kept watching Ishiki Satoshi shaking her head. However, Ishiki Satoshi kept his unintelligible squinting eyes from start to finish. After a while, he squinted and smiled. Indeed, what Senior said to me really shocked me. 95 Nikiri Thistle grinned. Ishiki Satoshi continued, but I don't approve. 9 While opponents are shocked. Lin Fan smiled knowingly here. Nikiri Thistle frowned. What's the matter with you? Didn't you agree? Don't you agree with Lin Fan? Ishiki Satoshi laughed. I'm just telling you because I lost to him twice in a row. I'm not convinced. 35 Not only me, but everyone who lost to him have felt this way. Why? Why did you lose so much? But that doesn't mean I don't agree with him. So sorry. Ishiki Satoshi squinted and smiled at Tadakoro Megumi and said, Sorry, Tatsuo. I made you worry just now. Tadakoro Megumi shook his head one after another. Nikiri Thistle was a little angry and was played so naked. For a long time, I preemptively said, since the overall situation has been decided, then what the council was like before and what it is still like now. Senior, please come back. Don't lose face here. Lin Fan smiled and said, Slow walk and don't give up. Nikiri Thistle is angry. After a while, a strange smile appeared on that indifferent face. He took a deep breath and replied, I knew this would happen. Lin Fan, it seems that you are really difficult to deal with, but it doesn't matter. Should have all arrived, right? Come in. Before everyone could react, the door was pushed open. Everyone was surprised. An old acquaintance, one of Xingjin's Tsuki Elite 10, Xiaolin Jinshin's first reaction said, See, why are you here? Eishi Tsukasa, still with a graceful manner, replied, Yeah, but Senpai seems to need me. Didn't you come back too? 9. The current Tsuki really needs some changes, and I hope to do the last meaningful thing for my alma mater on the eve of graduation. Behind Eishi Tsukasa, all the old faces of Xingjin appeared. Saito Sumai, Megashima Tsuk, and Jijigwa Ningning. These three appeared beside Eishi Tsukasa. Everyone was amazed. Nikiri G smiled. Lin Fan, the Tsuki Elite 10 Council can decide all school affairs without passing the chief, but you don't really think they're just a bunch of amazing cooking students, do you? You know, such a big Tsuki has been unknown in the food world all these years. Aside from Tsuki International, you don't know the structure of this school, do you? Small enough to have shareholders of all sizes and the board of directors of Totsuki Academy. And I don't need to say more. You know what's going on, right? They are not representing the Tsuki Elite 10 Council today, but as the major shareholders of the Tsuki Board of Directors to make decisions. Add these 3, a total of 7, you lose. At this time, Lin Fan took it easy, got up and replied, Wait. Even so, Tsuki is different from other industries. Even if the shareholders make a choice, They cannot fully decide. After all, this academy relies on cooking skills. 99. If you force the board to intervene, that's fine, unless you want to see all the students disagree. Totsuki is notorious ever since. Nakiri calmly said, "Then you mean?" Lin Fan took over the words and replied, "The food school will naturally use the means it should have to solve it." 39 this time, the opponents looked at each other. They know what Lin Fan means, but these people are all defeated. And if they promise Lin Fan, they are nothing more than giving away their own heads. Nakiri Thistle hesitated. As Lin Fan said, this school, even Zhijin Elite 10, has a background behind it, but still rely on cooking to speak. If you really want to force the shareholders to intervene, the students will definitely leave their mouths. Can't convince the crowd. This will make Tsuki's reputation plummet, which is not what Nakiri Thistle wants to see. Not what he wanted either. But if I agreed to Lin Fan, I watched his cooking skills all the way. It's too risky to let these people eat halberds. Nakiri Thistle was thinking he wanted a surefire decision. After a while, Nakiri replied, "How about the alliance team? This will save everyone's time to a greater extent." United? 35 Lin Fan's tone of mockery apparently knew what Nakiri Thistle was worried about. Just like that, "I still want to take power." Lin Fan nodded and said, "Yes, but I like to cook by myself, so you can team up to deal with me, but this is destined to be an unfair duel, so do you dare to use your net worth to bet?" And then there's not only that, but also publicly announced that he will withdraw from the food circle from the future. 5. Yes, quit the food circle. No one dares to use you again. Similarly, I can also promise to compare. If you don't agree, unless you want to die. Cute dividing line 160 bouncing venison soup? This is unlikely. Subscription required. After Lin Fan finished speaking, he thought about it. Before Nakiri Thistle could speak, he continued, "By the way, there's one thing I think you guys need to figure out. It's these two." 99 saying that, he pointed at Kobayashi Rintan and Akakubo Momo. "These two heads don't count." 99 everyone was surprised. Lin Fan smiled and said, "Have you forgotten that they have already lost to me? They are my maids. With me here, neither of them has the right to speak. Unless they can go back and don't care what the industry thinks. Who dares to use people who go back on their word like this in the future?" Kobayashi Rindo was surprised and looked at Aishi Tsukasa subconsciously. See, he didn't speak. Lin Fan continued, "Then tomorrow afternoon, let the coalition eat halberds. If you don't completely convince you, I'm afraid it won't work. Except for these two people. 35 and also, vote now. These two will abolish the Elite 10. Start voting." Lin Fan's words are sharp. The other members agreed and agreed at the same time. The two were instantly embarrassed. Nakiri Thistle thought about it for 100 years and nodded acquiescence. At this time, Nakiri Arena said, "If it's the alliance team, then it's me." Lin Fan looked back at her. Resolutely, Nakiri Arena continued, "I can be your assistant." Lin Fan nodded by default. After everyone settled everything, the meeting was dismissed. It was still between the moon and the sky, and people were crowded inside and outside the venue. However, this time was different from before. Not only Tsuki's students, but also other media in the industry came to Tsuki one after another. Between moon and sky, there is no suspense. The venue is crowded and crowded. Not only the top media in the industry, but even the first-line media outside the circle did not miss this opportunity to gain popularity. On social networking sites, this united team, Halberd Showdown. After the news was released last night, it was like a plague, and everyone on the internet knew it. For the normal order in the venue, a media area is specially set up for the media between Yuetian and Tiantian. The place was noisy. Everyone is discussing to witness this historic moment. Lin Fan is standing in the background like a fan meeting. There are also students off the field with fan cards, light cards. The lineup is extremely exaggerated. At this moment, Lin Fan and his party silently walked onto the stage. The host is still the familiar face, Rei Kawashima. The old acquaintance, still excited, said, "It's a pleasure to meet you again. I don't even remember how many times I hosted Lin Fan's halberd at this time. However, today is different from before. Something happened in Tsuki, so used Tsuki's means to deal with it within Tsuki. I'm so excited. Today's Shurji turned out to be a united team. When it comes to the united team, they're only Lin Fan and Nakiri Arena. The two of them will face Eizan Zhijin and now, the Tsuki Elite. 99. Lin Fan and Nakiri are two classmates. Today's road can be said to be very difficult to walk. The first ones to appear are Jigwa, Ningning, and Mejishima Tufu. Speaking of these two classmates, that's amazing. They also have high attainments in noodle cooking. Although Kawashima Rei thought for a while, looked at Lin Fan, and didn't say anything later. But everyone knew what it meant. The implication is that they are laughing at these two who are defeated. Because of this sentence, the audience began to talk again. Both of them are underdogs, but then again, fighting alone is not an advantage. But Jigwa and Tasuke Mejishima are a perfect match. If they were making ramen, they would probably be invincible. That's not necessarily. Why don't you say Lin Fan and Nakiri Arena are the combination? Lin Fan's cooking skills are obvious to all, right? If it is paired with the tongue of God, then this dish is directly to the extreme. There is no way to do it. Beyond. If you say that, it is true. In fact, in this alliance, even if the two are strong, don't forget Lin Fan and Arena. They're stronger. So, Nakiri Thistle is going to take power. So, why do it this way? Isn't the board voting bad? Don't dominate. There was a lot of discussion, but it doesn't seem to affect the 4 students on stage. Afterwards, Rei Kawashima held the hand card and smiled. The theme of this game has been chosen. 99. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint everyone. It's not a noodle dish. The theme is venison. 35. Then I won't say more nonsense. The 1-hour alliance eating halberd officially begins. I wish you good luck. This time, Kawashima Rei is not as long-winded as before. Speak clearly and neatly, and immediately enter the stage of eating halberds. There was a deafening cheer, and the applause continued. The 4 walked silently to the food area. Nakiri Arena is very well behaved and follows Lin Fan closely. It is her first time as an assistant, although she is not used to it. But for Lin Fan's ability, Nakiri Arena was convinced. So, as long as everything follows Lin Fan's arrangement, Nakiri Arena asked, apart from venison, what other spices and ingredients do you need? Lin Fan thought for a while, then smiled. I have taken everything that should be taken, so you can help with the ingredients. As for the recipe, I'll write it up later. Nakiri Arena nodded. Jigwa Ningning, Mejishima, Tufu silently took the ingredients. There is not much communication. It can be seen on the surface that the two still have a tacit understanding. On Lin Fan's side, Nakiri Arena was surprised when she took the recipe written by Lin Fan. Bouncing venison soup? What is this? Nakiri Arena muttered in surprise. Kawashima Rei, who was on the side, heard the news and rushed over without letting go of any news. Bouncing venison soup? This name sounds interesting. Does it really bounce? Lin Fan said with a smile. Whether it will bounce or not, you won't know after it's done. Lovely dividing line. Chapter 161 reappears. Classic luminous cuisine. Subscription. Bouncing venison soup. The audience off the field spoke in unison. Then they discussed each other. No matter what, Nakiri Arena has always kept silent, working as an assistant and handling ingredients very seriously. Although she didn't know much, the effect of this venison soup showed in the end. Will it bounce? But from the recipe point of view, the taste of this dish must not be bad. And as long as you appear, you can shock the audience. At this time, on the other side, Jigwa Ningning and Mejishima Tufu still had a tacit understanding and continued to handle the ingredients. At present, it seems that both sides are evenly matched, and there is no intention to give priority to anyone temporarily. Therefore, this alliance eating halberds has turned into a match that is unpredictable until the last minute. The various media are even more discussed. At the moment, no one has an advantage over anyone. So what do you think? Which team will win? According to the past, no matter what the situation is, Lin Fan will win. But it seems that the combination of Jigwa is also very strong. Indeed, If it's a one-on-one battle, it's a loser. Unexpectedly, when combined, there will be a wonderful chemical reaction. So, this game is very promising for the Zhijin team. 99 No, I still stand by Lin Fan. His strength is not comparable to Zhijin and the others. Off the field, the audience said their own words, and there was a bet on who would win. But this time, Zhijin and Ning became much more cautious after learning from the previous lessons. Not as overconfident as before. Ning was not very interested in Azumi Nakiri's long speeches. In her heart, what she really wanted to do, it was to seize this rare opportunity and do everything in his power to defeat Lin Fan. That's all she can think of right now. Like Lin Fan, Nakiri Arena also has her own mind. Father's sudden rebellion was to implement his absurd reforms. At this point, Nakiri Arena would never allow such a thing to happen. Here comes Lin Fan. From a personal point of view, she wants to help him. From nowhere, Nakiri Arena regarded Lin Fan as a true friend. There are also subtle emotions that go beyond friends. Nakiri Arena's cooking. I just want Lin Fan to read it alone. Therefore, in this halberd, she has to help Lin Fan. Both sides have their own mentality. This halberd meal was different from the past. Even Lin Fan, who always liked to use exaggerated cooking skills, seemed to calm down. Let Arena cooperate perfectly and bring the ingredients to the extreme. The atmosphere on the field was very stable, so even Kawashima Rei, who usually likes to talk, at this time he just stood by and watched silently, not daring to go up to disturb him. I am afraid that if one sentence is wrong, it will disturb the other party. Half an hour later, there's a scent on the field. It's the aroma of their own cooking. Each is different and has a pleasant aroma. The unique aroma of venison is vivid under the different processing methods of the two sides. Afterwards, Lin Fan served the dishes, and Nakiri Arena stood behind him with a confident face. Walking to the judge's table, Lin Fan said calmly, "Bison bouncing soup, please try it." 3 judges nodded, looking curious. One of the judges said, "Lin Fan's cooking is full of surprises. Everything is, no exceptions." 35 at this time, a very delicate barbecue dish appeared on the judging table. Ning said calmly, "This French-style grilled venison is an unsurpassed venison dish." 95. Only when you taste it can you know the meaning of the 4 words unsurpassable, Ning said confidently. But his eyes didn't communicate with Lin Fan at all. Because of Lin Fan's cooking, the whole thing is made with cantaloupe. There is also a lid on the top, making it difficult to distinguish the food content inside. Therefore, the subconscious action of the judges was to pick up the cooking of Ning's team. The unsurpassed venison, then try it. With that said, the judges picked up the sliced venison. After one bite, the just right fresh aroma of wild venison spreads to the whole mouth instantly. A very unique French cooking method. The technique has reached the ultimate. As for Flour 00, the judges tasted it piece by piece. Delicious, soft and tender, fragrant and delicious, with endless aftertaste. The practice of French cuisine has been shown to the extreme. No wonder who said, "This is an unsurpassed dish." In a desperate attempt, the 2 classmates put all their cooking skills on this dish. 55. It's true, this may be the pinnacle of this venison dish. Really, it's true sometimes, you're right. The 3 judges kept complimenting. However, Ning and Mejishima Tofu did not respond. After all this time, I really learned to be obedient and learned to stay calm. At this point, the judges transferred the wooden pipes to Lin Fan's cooking. From the appearance, it is a very ordinary cantaloupe. There is a faint scent of cantaloupe and the scent of venison. There is no need to guess too much. There must be venison in the cantaloupe. It's just that the judges don't quite know what to do. At this point, the 3 of them lifted the lid on the cantaloupe. Wow, that familiar picture. The golden light burst out from the inside in an instant. Immediately shocked everyone. Light, it's golden light. Once again, I saw Lin Fan make luminous dishes. I didn't expect that under such an ordinary appearance, there are hidden secrets. Fragrant, so fragrant. It's the combination of venison and cantaloupe. In the crowd's astonishment, the judges picked up the spoon and said, "This is Lin Fan's luminous cuisine. This venison soup looks so special." After speaking, the spoon just fell on the soup. Kakaka bang, the spoon in the judge's hand was unexpectedly thrown to the ground in an instant. Next, the other two judges did the same. Shock. There was an uproar. The judge was surprised. What's going on? This soup has bouncy power? 35 Chapter 162 is finally. It's time to make a conclusion. Please subscribe. Bang bang, after two crisp sounds, the spoons in the hands of the other two judges bounced to the ground. Everyone was surprised. This is soup? Bouncy soup? How is this done? It's incredible. I can't believe that a soup can be like this. I was still surprised at that glow, but I didn't expect. It's unbelievable, right? A soup with such a big elasticity. First time seeing it, so scary. I really want to know how this soup is made. The crowd disregarded the others and talked frantically. Seeing this, Nakiri Arena was even more shocked. Looking at Lin Fan, he didn't speak for a long time. When she was working as an assistant, she knew that this soup must be perfect, but I never thought that the finished product is as powerful as 100. Suddenly, Irina reacted and said, "It's aspic." The judges were a little confused. After hearing this, Lin Fan nodded and smiled. Yes, it's venison jelly, and there are surprises in this bouncing soup. Judges don't want to guess anymore. He quickly picked up the soup bowl and looked at the whole cantaloupe in front of him. This time, carefully pick up the spoon and press down gently. Kakaka, in that super rebound. If it weren't for the preparations made in advance, I'm afraid the spoon would still be thrown to the ground. Then in a light scoop, the venison jelly was scooped out instantly, and it was still shaking back and forth in the spoon. Art shock. Whoa, the bouncing jelly melted instantly after sliding into the mouth, neatly and without hesitation. The judges were amazed. This, not only venison jelly, but venison. It melts in your mouth, and the venison with less fat in it burst out of the barrier in an instant. And this lean meat has been stewed, this taste. 35, it's delicious. I didn't understand it at first. Why it's called soup when it's jelly. I didn't know the taste until after I ate it. 35 exist, the three judges spoke. One of them said again, "It's perfect to do it with venison because there's not a lot of fat involved. This aspic is just the right amount of jelly and turns into a soupy soup at mouth temperature. With venison, the most important thing is to add pickled plum to taste. The main taste is light, fresh, and elegant, which can quickly arouse appetite." Look at the intoxicated judges. Lin Fan laughed. Yes. Soak the venison in water, add ginger slices, cooking wine, and, at the same time, soak the blood. It can also remove the flavor. After getting ready to work together, cook in a casserole for the next 40 minutes. After the soup is out of the pot, it is also very particular to filter. If you are a little careless, you will not be able to achieve such a degree of bouncing. Pat, pat, pat. Suddenly, the audience clapped involuntarily. Amazing, really awesome. How did Lin Fan have such a long head? How could he come up with such an innovation? This game, I think the outcome is already decided, right? I think it is also, although the other party's venison barbecue is perfect, Lin Fan has added unprecedented innovation on the basis of perfection, which is the most important. Yes, I also think that Lin Fan will win. I didn't expect it. It's so good. I've never lost. Face everyone's doubts. Ji Jigua Ningning always remained calm, waiting for the judge's final decision. The judges discussed it privately for a moment. Finally, the judge at the very edge said, "Kino Kuni and Tasuk Mejishima. The cooking of these two students is very good. 35, but I'm curious that one of the two is a soba family, and the other is a leader in ramen. Why don't you choose what you are good at and combine them with venison? 5, in that case, I think it should be a whole new experience." 35. Wow. As soon as these words came out, the ending of the two was more solid. Another reviewer also said, "Yes, I also thought at first that these two would combine their own strengths and blend this. I didn't expect. Delicious food is delicious, but it lacks creativity. In this regard, Lin Fan and Arena are doing very well." At this time, the judges began to vote 0. Without a doubt, I must be head-bouncing venison soup. Not only perfect, but novel. Yes, I voted for Lin Fan too. Although I like French-style grilled venison very much, but if I had to choose between the two, I would prefer Lin Fan's. 55 at this time, Kawashima Ray came up in surprise and said excitedly, "It's a thrilling battle of the Alliance team eating halberds." However, the most surprising thing is that Lin Fan won again. Since he entered school, he has never lost. What an amazing fighting force. And next, it's the last group of the Alliance, Yishan Liang and Kurikiba Ryo. Although these two have fallen short of the elite chefs, both of them are very good at cooking. You know, Yishan Liang is the champion of the autumn competition. What kind of sparks will they create when the two join forces? Let's wait and see. Next, please bring up the theme of the final scene. 35. When Jigwa Ningning heard this, she couldn't hold back her calm emotions. In order to confront Lin Fan head-on again, Jigwa Ningning made full preparations. After discussing with Totsuki Saryo for a long time, I finally developed such a perfect dish. I thought that this time it was absolutely foolproof, but I never thought about it. I still lost. 0.0 turned out to be lost in creativity. Totsuki Saryo didn't speak, willing to admit defeat, turned around silently, and prepared to leave. Lin Fan stopped him. He strode forward and said calmly, "Just want to leave like this? Forget what was the bet we agreed on before eating the halberd." Totsuki Saryo has always been less talkative, and Lin Fan was so sarcastic that he didn't see him reply. Lin Fan continued to laugh. "Don't think you can be fine if you don't talk. The moment you step back in Totsuki and step into the Elite 10 offices, you should be mentally prepared, and that's how you should end up. So, next, please honor our previous bet, and there are undisclosed additional conditions." Chapter 163, The Eternal Spirit Sword appears. Subscribe. There are still undisclosed, and then this opportunity will also be said. Totsuki Saryo frowned. Lin Fan continued. "Not only to get out of the circle, but here, in front of all the media, you have to admit that you are doing it wrong. 99, and also, apologizing is necessary. And the most important thing is that your life is mine." Jigwa Ningning was surprised. "That's the point." There was an uproar off the field. "What's the situation? Bet your life? So exciting? It was achieved in private. Since it's private, what if you don't admit it? Don't admit it? That's not true. You know that Lin Fan is not the one who talks nonsense. Then if they don't admit it, anyway, if it's true, it's scary." Jigwa Ningning never dreamed that after losing to Lin Fan, he would be humiliated like this. But it was indeed what they had agreed to before. At this moment, Lin Fan looked at them and could only say that impulse is the devil. Lin Fan smiled and said, "Since 08 is all for this, the two. What are you waiting for? 39, say it." Also, in front of the whole circle of people inside and outside the circle, as well as the authoritative media, I will make it clear here. From this moment on, Jigwa Ningning and Mejishima Tufel lost their lives to me. So, no matter what happens in the future, they must not do anything against my interests. You can deny it, but in the face of many people, think about the future. 39 Jigwa Ningning gritted his teeth. Totsuki Saryo, who has always been calm and taciturn, couldn't help clenching his fists. For them, in a public setting like this, there are also the media in the food circle who said something like an apology and publicly admitted that the rest of their lives belong to Lin Fan. I can only obey him in the future. Thinking of this, the two felt uncomfortable. However, seeing the translation of the two, I knew that this bet existed. So, the crowd began to boo. I'm willing to admit defeat, although saying such a thing in front of everyone, if it's my words, it will definitely be more uncomfortable than death. But isn't this your own agreement? That's right. No one is forcing you. Hurry up and admit it. Let's watch the next halberd. Yeah, it's really a gamble. What do you think? If you say it, that's the direct death in the circle. But if you don't say it, the consequences will be even more serious. Hey, I can only say that I can't think about it. Why do you want to do this? In any case, let's say it quickly. Start the next halberd early. Everyone is waiting. facing the pressure from the audience off the field. Jiji Weningning, Mejishima Tufu. Zhang Jin would not accept being humiliated like this no matter what. But from the moment of agreeing to eat the halberd, the spirit of the contract has been set. There is no way, even if the heart is extremely struggling, painful, reluctant. In the end, he had to admit his own mistakes in this case. Calling after the two spoke, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Fan was very proud and looked at the two of them, and then at Azumi Nakiri in the VIP seat. At this time, his face does not seem so calm. Next, Kawashima Rei took over and continued. I have already got the cooking theme for this round. The theme is vegetables. Wow, it's still an hour of play. Let's get started. 35 after the speech fell, the audience applauded consciously. Next, Hayama Ryo and Kurikiba Ryo appeared. When Yishan came up to see Lin Fan, his heart sank a little. After all, in the previous elite chef competition, he was autistic after being beaten by Lin Fan. If it wasn't for Nakiri G looking for him, I'm afraid he would not have the courage to face Lin Fan. However, this time, Yishan Liang is only focused on winning. Only by winning this halberd can he prove his strength. Otherwise, it would be unintentional to say more. After that, Ryo Hayama and Ryo Kurikiba did not go straight to the ingredients area like Lin Fan did. Instead, the pace slowed down, and the two seemed to be discussing countermeasures. Rei Kawashima said happily, "It seems that Ryo Hayama and Ryo Kurikiba want to discuss the recipe first. But that's fine, it's more secure." After speaking, the two of them went to the ingredients area. However, at this moment, everyone's attention was originally on Yishan Liang and the others. Lin Fan once again attracted everyone's attention. I saw him silently walk to the kitchen utensils box and open it. Take out another kitchen knife. Seeing this, Kawashima Rei hurriedly walked over and said, "Hey, isn't this what you said before? The Garuda knife that can restore all ingredients to freshness?" It's amazing, the audience can feast their eyes again. After Lin Fan heard this, he shook his head and said, "Wrong. This is another sword, the Eternal Sword." Everyone said in unison, "Eternal Spirit Sword?" Rei Kawashima was puzzled and continued to ask. Lin Fan flashed the Yongling knife and shook it back and forth under the camera. The crowd was amazed, because on camera and in the spotlight, this Eternal Sword is indeed different from Garuda. On the body of the knife, a pattern of the tyrannical dragon pattern appeared faintly. This dragon, under the spotlight, shows different colors and shapes from different angles. And the most exquisite is the hilt, which is also a dragon pattern. Kawashima Rei was surprised. Yongling sword? It looks like the Garuda sword, but suddenly it is different. The Garuda knife is to make the ingredients fresh. So what about this knife? 35? What is the function of this knife? It can't be made fresh. In this case, a knife is enough. 35 Lin Fan held the Yongling sword in his hand, gestured back and forth, and said with a smile, "The function of this sword. It's also about making the ingredients fresh, but it targets different ingredients. The Garuda knife is a poultry, but this Yongling knife is specially designed for processing vegetarian ingredients." Vegetarian food? Kawashima Rei continued to be surprised. The ingredients that were originally fresh, but become even fresher through this Yongling knife. What would it be like? 99 Chapter 164 Crystal Phoenix with multiple vegetables. Subscription. The crowd said they couldn't believe it. If you have to say it, the Beichan Heavenly Wolf Blade is an ice blade, which can quickly freeze the ingredients to keep it fresh. But I really can't figure out, why is the Yongling blade? It's a little unlikely. In what way does the Yongling knife make the ingredients fresh? 99. It's not that you're still questioning Lin Fan for this reason. It just sounds outrageous. I agree, it's really outrageous. It's impossible to make vegetables fresh with a kitchen knife. You'll know if you look at it, but I don't think Lin Fan is the type to talk big. At least never. The audience was talking loudly. On the other hand, after discussing with Kurikiba Ryo, Hayama Ryo had a tacit understanding, and they each divided their labor and handled the ingredients. Lin Fan took a lot of bean sprouts, as well as white radish and carrots. There are also some scattered fruits. Everyone was curious and wanted to know how Lin Fan would bring out the theme. What I want to know most is this eternal sword. Yi Shanliang on the side pretended to be nothing, but his mind was with Lin Fan. Yu Guang glanced at it from time to see if he had used the eternal sword. However, Lin Fan just took out the eternal spirit sword and put it aside before using it. This is surprising, but Lin Fan was still in a hurry, put a pot of bean sprouts aside, and started to remove the bean sprouts silently. Nakiri Arena looked at it and was taken aback. He leaned over and asked, "Just take it apart, right? Then I'll do it." Lin Fan looked up. The eldest lady of Tsundra suddenly froze, a little embarrassed. Wanting to conceal her original intention, he immediately pretended to be indifferent. "Don't think too much, and don't misunderstand. I'm on the same line as you now, and the whole Tsuki, except for Grandpa, may be me, and I really want you to win. So if I help you, I'm also helping me." The more sophistry Nakiri Irina makes, the more Lin Fan finds her interesting. "Well, I didn't want to say," I then said, "you just say it directly. Just want to help me. I understand it. Don't look for these reasons. 95, of course. Only if I win can I defeat your father." Nakiri Irina was stunned. Lin Fan smiled and handed her the bean sprouts in the pot. He told her how much it needed to be demolished. Nakiri Irina was listening carefully. Then hand over the work to Irina's Lin Fan. Walk to the cooking table. Wash the other vegetables and fruits. At this time, Kawashima Rei exclaimed, "This is the use of the eternal sword." As soon as the words fell, the audience just became vigilant. Lin Fan quickly picked up the Yongling sword. Under the spotlight, the bright dragon pattern appeared on the blade again, and the pattern was lifelike, as if it was about to fly out of the blade. Next, bring the ingredients, such as radishes and tomatoes, to the side of the cutting board. The kitchen knife quickly rotated a few times in Lin Fan's hand, which was a habitual movement. Very chic. The little girl saw it and couldn't help but exclaim off the field, "Dong, dong, dong." The blade is on the cutting board, making a clear sound. The shredded radish flew to the sky the moment it left the blade, drew an arc in the air, and fell into the glass vessel on the side. Shocked, Kawashima Rei is even more excited. "This swordsman! I haven't seen Lin Fan show it for a long time. In my memory, Lin Fan has used it very few times. Just shredding, this picture is too shocking." Just when Kawashima Rei was amazed. At the same time, Lin Fan shreds white radish and carrot together. The two colors, red and white, form an arc, which looks very beautiful. Just looking at this arc, it's hard to remember that this is actually cutting vegetables. The audience was full of praise. Hayama Ryo and Kurikiba Ryo. Try to keep calm and don't look at Lin Fan. But there's really no way. Kurikiba Ryo couldn't help but said, "This is really Lin Fan. Even if it's just cutting a vegetable, it's so much higher than the battle." Yi Shanliang replied calmly, "Who said no? But his knife skills are too." Without finishing speaking, I continued to cook. But it can be seen from the expression that Yi Shanliang is helpless, unwilling, and has some jealousy. 20 minutes later, Nakiri Irina handed the dismantled bean sprouts to Lin Fan. I glanced at it, and it was very subtle, and each one kept a length. "Sharp." Lin Fan said this casually. Nakiri Irina became cold again, and for some reason, her heart beat a little faster. This feeling is only momentary, fleeting. Nakiri Irina knows it's shy. To hide her shyness, Nakiri Irina asked, "It's just a simple way to deal with it. Don't think about it. I'm doing this for Tsuki too." 35 Lin Fan smiled and said nothing. Next, he began to process these ingredients, ready to fix them into a shape. This was the recipe in his head that the system had signed in. In this recipe, however, Lin Fan improved upon his existing cooking skills. At this time, the fragrance spread a little bit. The aroma of the curry is very noticeable, which is very much in line with Hayama Ryo's style as a chef. There is only this strong curry smell on the field, and Lin Fan saw him posing for vegetables. If people question Lin Fa's cooking in the past, it might be because they didn't know his cooking skills. But at this moment, Lin Fan used a bunch of ingredients and didn't see how he handled it, so he put on the plate and made it into a shape. If this shape is the theme of this round of eating halberds, everyone will feel that it is too clear. The audience is very contradictory, agreeing on the one hand, but beginning to question when they encounter unknown things. At this time, there was another voice of doubt. Lin Fan has long been aware of it, and every time he asks questions, he finally beats them in the face to get them on the head. Such a weak, obtained, over and over again, nonstop cycle, not only tired. 40 minutes later, the dishes on both sides are done. The venue is filled with the aroma of curry and other spices. Ryo Hayama's personal style is very strong. Lin Fan is here because before everyone's attention was on Yi Shanliang, when they turn around, they had already seen him use ingredients to build a phoenix. Kawashima Rei was surprised and said, as expected of Lin Fan, this shape is so lifelike, but after thinking for a while, he continued, it seems a bit bland. If it's just this vegetarian dish, it's better. Lin Fan didn't explain anything. There was this vegetable phoenix on the tray, silently brought it to the judge's table, put it down, and said with a smile, the name of this dish is Vegetable Crystal Phoenix. Everyone, it's time to witness the miracle. Please keep your eyes open. 39 Chapter 165 Curry Shrimp Yellow Vegetable Salad. Subscribe. Open your eyes, everyone, Lin Fan said, holding a spoon in one hand and a utensil in the other. Scoop out the soup from the inside and pour it down the phoenix. Whoa, 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 the red soup in the spotlight shines brightly. Light again. But this time, the light is not as intense, but it shines like a diamond. 99, it's so fragrant. Oh my God, it's so fragrant. It's the taste of this sauce. Look, I'm definitely not a DK, am I? This phoenix is a jerk. The audience exclaimed. The judges widened their mouths and were shocked by the scene in front of them. The phoenix in the sauce soup seems to be endowed with a soul. When the soup swept across the body, a pair of wings of the phoenix were slowly opening. Live alive! Kawashima Rei stood aside, shouting excitedly. At this moment, the phoenix spread its wings, and the red soup turned into its wings. And what's even more surprising is the scent. A strong aroma is blowing from the phoenix body. This aroma is very special and can't be described in words, but makes people feel appetizing. The judge was surprised. It's not an exaggeration at all. The smell alone is appetizing. Another judge nodded and said, yes, it's very fragrant. It's amazing. It's like an appetizer, and now my tongue is drooling. The final judge 100 asked, is this red soup chili oil? Lin Fan shook his head and smiled and said, no. This red soup is my secret appetizer soup. Between the lines of Lin Fan's words, there's a taste of conspiracy. Next to Hashin Ryo, who had a sensitive nose, noticed something was wrong at the first time. It's vinegar. There's vinegar in this soup. Lin Fan just smiled and shook his head without speaking. At this time, the judge couldn't wait, picked up the chopsticks, added one, and looked at it again and was surprised. Is this a bean sprout? It's the bean sprout that just took the time to disassemble. It is to remove the head and root of the bean sprouts, leaving only the most tender part in the middle. What surprised me even more was that the soup was warm. But the temperature is not hot. Just pour it down gently. Just heat the bean sprouts quickly, making it crystal clear. 99. I can't help it. I have to try it now. Saying that, the judges ate it into their mouths. Kakaka, the body seemed to be electrocuted. Another arc flashed in my mind. Acid, a strong sour taste instantly filled the entire mouth. After all, it's sour and slightly spicy. But it's not the same as Lin Fan's usual cooking. AAA, this level of spiciness is only a little bit, very little, but it plays the role of the finishing touch. The judge said, and once again picked up the phoenix's wings. Taking a closer look at, it's not bean sprouts, it's... Can't wait to eat it. Kaka when the upper and lower teeth touch. The crispness of the ingredients fills the whole senses and taste buds. It's a radish. Oh my God, after being heated, the radish didn't become soft. It became crispy and delicious. In addition to the hot and sour soup, I thought it was mainly light, but I didn't expect it to be so amazing. The other judges exclaimed, Not only turnips, but others. For example, the green leaf lettuce at the end is slightly dipped in a little sour soup, which tastes like a salad. 39, the final judge asked, "Can you tell me what kind of sour soup this is?" Even the spectators, who could only stare at each other, couldn't help but nod their heads at the same time. Lin Fan laughed. "This is the sour soup I made by combining Chinese cuisine." 99. The taste is a bit like fish in sour soup. 35. But I added a little bit of chili in it to enhance the taste, but the slight spiciness doesn't affect the taste, even for people who don't eat spicy food. The sour soup is mainly made with tomatoes. After mashing the tomatoes, put them into a pot and boil them. Although the taste is not as strong as Hayama Ryo's curry, it is mainly because of the taste of eating. I used fruit acid instead of vinegar, so that's why I said there's no vinegar here. This sour-based soup is refreshing and delicious, appetizing and invigorating the spleen. The main reason is that a small amount of dried tangerine peel is added in it, and the taste will be even better. Pat, pat, pat. The judges couldn't help but clap their hands. Lin Fan's cuisine is always amazing. This dish is so perfect. Can I understand that this is the Chinese version of vegetable salad? 55. Lin Fan laughed. In China, such a dish is called cold dish. The 3 judges nodded. Although I still have no idea, but because I have to review other dishes next, I have no choice but to give up temporarily. His eyes were on Hayama Ryo's cooking, but his heart was beside him. Eizan was a little uncomfortable and said calmly, "Senior, my curry shrimp yellow vegetable salad is also a brand new and different experience." The judges nodded. "Then, start tasting. A bite of assorted vegetables into your mouth. It's yellow shrimp. This vegetarian dish has yellow shrimp." Next, he took another bite and continued. "The amount of shrimp yellow is very large." 99. Go down this mouthful of vegetables. You can feast your eyes on it. It's curry here, and I have to say that Yi is really good at using curry. The curry is ever-changing in your hands, almost to perfection. And 35, speaking of which, the judge on the other side said, "This salad is full of seasonings. It's cognac. It was seasoned with cognac. The taste is very special. Just like what you said, the taste is very special and surprising." But the judge said, looked at the 2 judges next to him and smiled. "I still have but. Student Ye's cooking is already the ultimate. It is also the ultimate cooking of Lin Fan. I prefer Lin Fan's." Eizan was surprised. The judge continued, "Because Lin Fan's dish gave me more possibilities, so I chose Lin Fan's vegetable crystal phoenix." Then, the 2 judges next to them responded, "I wanted to say at the end, but since you brought it up to this point, I'll say it too. I want to choose Lin Fan too. Not only did it give me a variety of possibilities, but the knife work and the form of presentation will not be discussed. After all, it is a perfect score. The rest in Ye's cooking, it doesn't give people a very amazing feeling. Maybe the one you met today, by chance, is Lin Fan. If it were someone else, maybe I would choose your way. 99, but not today. It's too common. Yi is good at cooking, but you can't use the same processing method in every dish. The most taboo thing for chefs is stagnation and lack of innovation. This is the scariest thing, so I choose Lin Fan. A game without suspense." Nakiri Arena let out a sigh of relief, and then laughed heartily. Afterwards, Lin Fan turned his head and looked at Eizan with an indifferent expression. Chapter 165, finally. Against the elite outside the school, for subscription, Lin Fan turned back and looked at the loser. Eizan was dumbfounded there. He has not been able to react in a short period of time, and he has lost so completely. He was autistically beaten by Lin Fan on the top of the elite chef, but he managed to regain some confidence in front of Lin Fan because of Nakiri Thistle. Unexpectedly, all of a sudden, I completely doubted my life. Such a complete loss. Eizan originally thought that the others lost to Lin Fan because of their own reasons. He is different from others, as long as he does his best, as long as he takes advantage of his keen sense of smell. Using spices to the extreme is the pinnacle of cooking. Never thought it would end up like this. The most important thing is the price of losing. Hey, What are you thinking, the student? It's Lin Fan's voice. It broke Hayama Ryo's contemplation. After returning to his senses, he looked at Lin Fan and saw a calm smile on his face. Like this, no matter how you look at it, Hayama Ryo hates it. But he just lost to such a face. He also gambled his whole life into it, and there is no room for recovery. Lin Fan smiled and said, "You too. I'm sorry, the name will be mine from now on. If you want to do something extreme, please let me know, because from now on, our relationship is not between classmates and friends, but between slaves and masters." Speaking of which, Lin Fan took the microphone in Rei Kawashima's hand. Facing the audience, he said, "Here, taking advantage of this opportunity, I want to make it clear to everyone. From this moment on, these two people have a master-servant relationship with me. They only serve me, they only follow me, and they don't have any discretion. So, excuse me, everyone, if you have any thoughts, please bypass these two people because their words, it doesn't count." Wow, this should be the most exciting sentence so far. The reporters off the field began to take pictures frantically, and the cameras were all on Lin Fan. The speed is very fast, and the edited news is sent out in an instant. However, like a plague outbreak, the news spread quickly online. Not only frying pans in the food circle, but even outsiders began to talk about it. Everyone is guessing what kind of legend Lin Fan is. Eizan Ryo and Kurikiba Ryo, even if they wanted to refute at this moment, had nothing to say. "I always feel like I've eaten a dummy." Lin Fan smiled and said, "Since this is the case, you two should get out of here. From now on, don't lose face in the food circle. Without my consent, you are not allowed to cook except yourself. If you are seen cooking in front of others, then, just as we said before, take your life. It's well-founded. It's not a big deal to die like this." Or, is it? Bang, Lin Fan threw the Yongling knife, and the tip was nailed to the cutting board. Or, I can use any kitchen utensils and chop off your hands. After all, we are in a master-servant relationship. It's up to me whether you die or not. The two were shocked. I never dreamed that Lin Fan could speak so decisively in front of everyone. The two were stunned on this stage, their faces lost. Then, Yi Shanliang turned around and walked away silently. Here, he doesn't want to stay for one more minute. Ryo Kurikiba followed closely behind. Lin Fan did not forget to remind, "Although I am a little emotional, I can understand that I can't accept it for a while. Then give you today's time to accept him. If not, I don't know what will happen." The two did not speak, did not turn their heads, and walked away. Next, the show should have ended. The audience and the media began to prepare for the show, although they were a little unfinished. But at this time, Nakiri Thistle came up. Wow, everyone sat back in their seats again. The keen audience smelled another smell of gunpowder. It's not easy. Zero. As for Flower 00, Nakiri knew that Lin Fan's cooking skills were very good, but he really didn't expect that after adding Nakiri Arena, it would be so strong. It should be said that even without Arena's help, with the cooking just now, eating them would be as easy as pinching an ant to death. Crash. All plans, here at Lin Fan, have all been disintegrated. Nakiri Thistle's heart steps out of balance. He knew that if he wanted to implement his plan, he only needed to win over Lin Fan. But I never thought that Lin Fan, Nakiri G, couldn't figure it out. He didn't know if he was arrogant, or had high eyes and high heart. No matter how he went to find Lin Fan afterwards, it would not help. But he couldn't let his plan go to waste. Therefore, Azumi Nakiri held back his emotions and walked up to the stage with a calm face. Seeing this, Kawashima Rei subconsciously handed him the microphone. Nakiri took the microphone and said calmly, "It was over, but, young man, your strength is very strong. So strong that you have already surpassed the students in school and even many elite graduates. So, let me see how." Lin Fan laughed and said, "What kind of insight method? Does this mean that you also want to eat halberds with me? If that's the case, let's just say it clearly. It's basically not giving up, right? Then I'll tell you what's the stake. It's okay to drop out of school, drop out of the circle. Even if you're my slave, there is nothing new at all. 35, in this way, I have no interest in eating halberds with you. The ending is the same anyway. It's a waste of time. 66-inch 5. Wow, another uproar. Kawashima Ray next to her was shocked by Lin Fan's way of speaking. Nakiri Thistle, though Tsuki deleted his records. However, it can still be learned from some surrounding gossip. This person's Zhang Jin's strength is quite strong. Lin Fan actually said such a thing. Slowly turn your head towards the Nakiri Thistle. Seeing his serious face, a sneer suddenly appeared. Chapter 167 The Contest with Nakiri Thistle for subscription. To be able to speak so arrogantly to seniors in such a tone, I've only met you Lin Fan so far. It's all for your sake. If I'm refusing, doesn't it make me afraid? I once said that you were strong, and until this moment, I have always thought so. 35, but you are so arrogant, even a little self-righteous, so looks like it's time for you to take a hit and suffer a little. Lin Fan replied indifferently. We'll see, but what's the stake? It's all rotten before. There's nothing new, and it doesn't affect me at all. Not as good as, this time bet your hands on me. 35. If you lose, the hands 117 will be abolished. In this way, as long as you want to intervene in cooking, you will think of today's tragic situation, and it will stop. Wow, after saying this, the audience immediately boiled. Lin Fan dared to say it. Isn't it? Are Tsuki's halberds so terrible? Do they have any deep hatred? After all, it's Irina's biological father. I guess Lin Fan is going to give it a shot. After all, everyone is here to challenge Shurji, so it's not very tiring. What if Nakiri G really agreed? If it weren't for some unpleasant stories circulating, he should be among the most elite in Tsuki now. So, would like to know Nakiri Thistle's next reflection. Will he agree? For this reason, if he doesn't agree, it means he's afraid. If he agrees, it's going to be a big game. Off-field media, the audience was talking loudly. Such alternative halberd-eating bets are unprecedented and unprecedented. At this time, everyone's eyes turned to Nakiri Thistle. Seeing that he was still indifferent, he replied, "Humph, it's a joke in itself to come to compete with you, eh? However, to make such a ridiculous bet, if that's the case, then the prize for you is the same. How?" Lin Fan nodded indifferently. Kawashima Ray stood aside, stunned, and did not respond for a long time. After all, in her hosting career, the most bets were nothing more than bankruptcy or looting of resources. All of a sudden, it seems to be dying, which sounded a little scary. At this time, Lin Fan patted Ray Kawashima and said with a smile, "Hey, classmate, what's wrong? You're scared. Can you host? If not, just let the two of us compare." Only then did Kawashima Ray react and nodded hurriedly, "Yes, yes. You can't question my professional ability." Saying that, Kawashima Ray had someone bring up the lottery box. Then he hesitated. The halberd bet in this game is unprecedented. So, this theme ingredient too. Who are you? Lin Fan said first. You come. Nakiri Thistle nodded. During the draw, the off-field discussions never ceased. I didn't expect Nakiri Thistle to eat halberds with Lin Fan. It's a bit high. 35. One is a student and the other is Zhang Jin's elite. No matter how you look at it, Lin Fan suffers. Of course, if he can win, his reputation in the circle will be different. Yeah, it seems Nakiri Thistle must be out of anger. His entire army was killed. He never dreamed of it. I should have never dreamed that Lin Fan would be so strong. After looking at it all the way, I knew that ordinary people really couldn't afford it, and I don't know what the elite Tenzin Jin thought. That's right, it's not necessarily a joint effort. It's mainly because Lin Fan has given everyone too many possibilities. 99. I'm very curious now. If one side really loses, it's going to lose the hand, even if people are talking about it. Nakiri Thistle remained the same, as if the winning ticket was in hand, and there was no sense of emotion to show at all. On Lin Fan's side, it's been like this since he first came out to eat halberds. Never saw him scared. At this time, Ray Kawashima took out the sign and opened it. Well, the theme of this round has been selected. It's tofu. 95, that's interesting. Tofu. It's tofu again. I still remember the giant panda magic tofu that Lin Fan made. It was amazing. I wonder if he will bring us amazing dishes this time. Saying that, Kawashima Ray looked at Nakiri G and smiled. Senior, Are you ready? See him silently nodding 0. Nakiri G smiled. Then, it is still an hour of cooking time, and I announce that the competition officially begins. After the words fell, Lin Fan didn't even glance at Nakiri Thistle. Turn around and head to the food area. Afterwards, took a look and chose a different kind of tofu. Kawashima Rei was surprised. Hey, I thought that according to Lin Fan's habit, he would use freshly ground soybeans to make tofu. However, this one did not, and chose to use the finished tofu directly. So, old tofu, soft tofu. Is this a tofu feast? Seeing that Lin Fan didn't speak, Kawashima Rei turned her attention to Azumi Nakiri's side again. Because of this expression, the indifferent man gave Rei Kawashima some invisible pressure, so she didn't dare to approach for questioning. Can only watch silently by the side. The audience is divided into two sides. One is watching Lin Fan, hoping that this time he can still make amazing dishes. On the other side is Nakiri Thistle. After all, this person has disappeared for a long time. Zhijin also belongs to the category of genius Nakiri Thistle. This is the first dish to return to the public eye. Therefore, since 0.0, the media will naturally not let it go. The camera is aimed at both sides, and their cooking process is recorded without any errors. Time passed in the midst of everyone's relish. Slowly, the field began to permeate the fragrance of soy products. Then, there's the strong aroma of soy products and other seasonings. The cooking on both sides, just from this perspective, is indistinguishable. Until an hour later, the cooking of the two has entered the final stage. Lovely dividing line chapter 168, absolutely enjoy. Tofu Trio, subscribe. The cooking for the two of them is officially over. Nakiri Thistle is full of aura, holding the food, without any extra movement, went directly to the judge's seat and put it down. The three judges were stunned when they saw this. Seems a little overwhelmed by the pressure of Nakiri Thistle. This has its own aura, which gives people an indescribable pressure, as if telling each other that Nakiri Thistle's cuisine is unique, perfect, and undeniable. There is no introduction. So what is the name of this dish? Is it similar to omelette? It looks similar. As the father of God tongue, his cooking skills are conceivably strong. Several media are discussing. Nakiri Thistle listened to these words. I didn't want to say more, but still said, this dish is called tofu omelette. 35. The combination of French and Japanese cuisine is used. Tofu is replaced by eggs through special means, and it is presented in the form of omelette. No one will resist this delicious dish. Speaking of play, Nakiri Thistle looked at the three judges. This look means, let the judges taste it first. Under pressure, the three judges nodded subconsciously and picked up the omelette. 080. The crispy shell is presented in the form of a layered cake, so the taste can be more layered and rich. Not only that, when you hold this omelette in your hand, not only does it have a strong aroma, but the tofu that is substituted on the surface layer, when you hold in your hand, can see a jelly-like texture, shaking. I'm going to try it right away. The three judges were talking, and one couldn't wait to eat it. The other two followed closely behind. Kakaka, after one bite, the crispy shell suddenly shattered in the cavity. What follows is a cheesy tofu in the middle that slides onto the tongue in an instant. However, unlike jelly, this tofu melts in your mouth and is instantly creamy. Suddenly, Kakaka, the three judges were so excited at the same time that their shirts burst. This scene terrified everyone in the arena. Kawashima Rei, who had been standing beside her, covered her mouth in shock and said, It's amazing. As soon as you enter it and take a bite, the judges are impressed by the deliciousness. However, just standing here and smelling the aroma makes people addicted. 35 at this time, a judge excitedly said, It's delicious. The two styles of cuisine are perfectly combined. 55, the key is that this tofu cheese is so perfect. It's amazing. The milky fragrance is full of milk. The taste is tender and smooth, and it melts in your mouth. More, the supreme enjoyment in the sense of taste. 99, while the judge was talking, once again, the blasted placket was completely shattered. The scene is very shocking. It's too exaggerated. After 3 judges ate it, they made the same reaction at the same time. How delicious is this dish? It's the first time I've seen the competition since I've seen it. And the judges, even Lin Fan hasn't done it, right? 55, as expected of Nakiri Thistle. This power is too strong. Lin Fan may be really in danger this time, and if he loses, he will not only drop out of school, but simply disappear. It will be at the hands of the loser. You know, for chefs, the importance of these hands. No, in any profession, hands are important. 35, it's so dramatic. It's the first time I've seen such a raw halberd bet. It seems that Lin Fan's situation is not optimistic. 99, the audience and the media are talking about it. Nakiri Ji looked at Lin Fan with indifference and did not speak. That expression seemed to be declaring authority. That mighty aura seemed to be telling Lin Fan, win, it's that simple. And Lin Fan didn't choose to cooperate with him. He was asking for his own death. Working with Lin Fan is giving him a chance. Yes, Lin Fan from that face, that kind of information. At this time, Kawashima Ray hurriedly reminded, seniors' cooking is very strong, but judges, we'll have to try Lin Fan's dishes next. 39, the judges nodded and looked at the plate of tofu dishes in front of them. Fried noodles with tofu cubes? It looks a bit ordinary. One judge couldn't help but say something. Lin Fan laughed. This dish is called tofu trio. As for why you say this, the 3 of you will know immediately after tasting it. 5, the judges looked carefully on the fried noodles. It is very intuitive to see that a layer of seasoned tofu cubes covers the surface. And inside the fried noodles, there are big and small pieces of meat. So this is a fried noodles with tofu and meat. The intuitive first reaction of the 3 reviewers is this. Afterwards, without holding out much hope, he picked up a handful of noodles and slowly ate it into his mouth. As soon as you enter it, your upper and lower teeth bite off the noodles in an instant. The 3 judges were suddenly surprised. Then chew it carefully and, after swallowing it, pick up a large amount again, chew it carefully, and swallow it. This noodle is actually made of tofu. It's tofu noodles. One of the judges said in surprise. Another replied. 117, yes, it turned out not to be noodles made with flour, but tofu. 35, the last judge, after picking up a piece of meat and eating it. I saw him exclaimed and excitedly said, not only that, but also this meat. It's not real meat. It's made of tofu. Oh my God. After using the seasoning, I used other techniques, and I saw the tofu block, which was shown in the form of meat. It tastes like meat, but it's not meat. The 3 judges, one bite after another, started eating quickly and couldn't stop at all. At this time, the faces of the judges showed intoxicated expressions. One judge lamented, I can feel the accompaniment of the fairies, and it's a trio. It's amazing. Another judge continued, yeah, it's like being in a fairyland. This whole dish is made of tofu. It's amazing. Trio of palate, perfect, very perfect. All of a sudden, the changes in the judges made everyone curious again. In the end, this tofu trio made by Lin Fan or Nakiri Thistle's tofu quiche, which one is better? Chapter 169, sorry, these hands are mine. Subscribe. All eyes were on the 3 judges, and they were intoxicated. It's not clear what they saw in their minds at this moment. Just heard the judges. The mouth kept talking. Saw the fairies were playing for them. Slowly, the judges gradually regained their senses. The 3 looked at each other. Recalling the experience just now, I couldn't help but say, what a magical journey. The middle judge nodded and said, yes, it's really amazing. I still can't get enough of it. 35, but the noodles are already finished. The final judge also catered, yes. At first I thought it was just an ordinary fried noodles, but I didn't expect that the 3 ingredients were all made from tofu. Lin Fan laughed. Yes, the noodles are made by me pressing tofu. 35, and this process of suppression is a test of experience and techniques. As we all know, the shape of tofu is not like other. If you are a little careless, you will lose all your achievements. Don't say pressing into noodles. You can't even shape it. Or, as long as it is put into water, it will completely disintegrate. So tofu. Noodles made from tofu is a production process that is difficult to surpass. 39, it's the taste right here, and the three seniors have also tasted it. The soft and glutinous taste of tofu and the noodles made from flour are two different tastes. Soybeans still have the fragrance of beans. Having said that, Lin Fan looked at the plate and continued. Xylai is made of firm tofu and soft tofu. 35, the combination of spices is used, and the most important thing is, I used the broth. The judges said in unison. Mouth soup? Lin Fan said in the elevator. Yes, broth. After pressing the imitation meat into small pieces, I put them all into the soup pot and boiled them with the broth. Use broth to simmer this tofu block, and over time, the aroma of the gravy will be well absorbed into the tofu. After taking a bite, can you immediately feel the fresh aroma of the gravy overflowing? Finally, the tofu cubes on top. The whole plate uses the tofu as a way of three forms to present them. That's the magic of the tofu trio. Pat, pat, pat. After speaking, the judges subconsciously and unconsciously applauded. Rei Kawashima hurriedly added, then, next it's time to score 2 dishes. 35, the judges thought about it and began to communicate in a low voice. Nakiri Thistle remained expressionless. Even Lin Fan's cooking resonated so much with the judges. But it didn't affect him in the slightest. He felt that his cooking was unparalleled and irreplaceable deliciousness. After a while, one of the judges looked at the Nakiri Thistle and said, Ahem. The three of us have thought about it. The cooking of the two of you is perfect, especially this tofu omelet by Azumi Nakiri, which is amazing, but speaking of this, Nakiri Thistle, who was originally expressionless, suddenly frowned slightly. Every time the judges say, but something unexpected happens. Next, the judges continued, but Lin Fan's tofu trio is just too perfect. This dish highlights the tofu to the fullest. I still have a lot of aftertastes, and there are still cosigns and aftertastes in my mouth. Before waiting for the next judge to speak, Azumi Nakiri retorted, Impossible. How is it possible? My experience in food and my qualifications in any way is better than this guy. How could it be bad? In terms of creativity, the creativity of tofu omelet is irreplaceable. It's just the taste. How could my philosophy and my cooking skills be inferior to that of a teenage boy? Nakiri Thistle clearly expressed his doubts about this result. What a confident Nakiri Thistle. Right now, he only thinks about who wins and who loses and has never considered the consequences of losing. Seeing this, Lin Fan knew that he would have such a reaction. So he turned around, walked to the cooking table, and brought out a trio of tofu that had been prepared earlier. I knew this was going to happen. If you don't give it taste, and you are completely convinced, you may not know the real charm of this dish. The judges looked at Azumi Nakiri and nodded. Immediately avoided his eyes again, not wanting to be oppressed by him. Because, looking at the appearance of Nakiri Thistle, it is very likely that he will jump directly to the judge's table and rate his own dishes. However, seeing Lin Fan silently brought the dishes over. Azumi Nakiri took a deep breath, but he wanted to taste what it tasted like. Find out the flaws and loopholes. Just reject it directly. Then serve the Nakiri Thistle the tofu trio and pick up a pinch. This feels that the noodles made of tofu have no characteristics of tofu at all, and they have the same elasticity as ramen noodles. Nakiri G sneered. Grave accent. Has the texture of the tofu been changed? Can the dishes made in this way be delicious? 99 saying that. He ate the tofu noodles in one bite. Kakaka. The moment when the upper and lower teeth touch and bite the noodles. In Nakiri G's mind, the sound of musical instruments instantly appeared. Then, in the darkness, a light slowly appeared. And this range of light is getting bigger and bigger, illuminating the whole surrounding. A fairy suddenly appeared in front of me, playing with a musical instrument. Or a trio. The fairies are dancing, which is a wonderful feeling. Suddenly, Kakaka Nakiri Thistle is unsuspecting and bursting in an instant. At this moment, the whole person seems to be wandering in a fairyland, dojiao, listening to the fairies playing. This music is so wonderful. Nakiri Thistle couldn't help but subconsciously picked up a piece of vegetarian meat and ate it. Kakaka, playing in the mind, the music seems to be endowed with a soul. Tofu. Noodles are fried noodles made from tofu. It tastes like noodles, but in essence, it also has the bean flavor of tofu. The vegetarian meat made from tofu is as delicious and delicious as real meat, but the texture is really tofu. Wonderful, really wonderful. This feeling, it's amazing. Breath. Suddenly, Nakiri Thistle became more emotional. He just wanted to listen to the trio all the time in this wonderland. Just keep listening like this, and didn't want to wake up. At this time, Lin Fan calmly smiled and said, "Since that's the case, Senior, did I just accept your hands?" Chapter 170, Breaking the Hand. Not necessarily to cut it off. Subscribe. Senior, your hands. There's no doubt that I can accept them directly. Lin Fan said calmly. Wow. There was an uproar in the venue, and even the pot was completely exploded. Nakiri Ji was stunned. He should have said this to Lin Fan. Never thought that the person who said this was not him, but Lin Fan, a mere junior. Even if there is no such bet, just losing this halberd will lose all face. At this time, the judges stood up in fright. Even want to stop. That Lin Fan, this gamble seems a little too high. After all, it's cooking. Yeah, why do you have to deal with life? I'm talking, this is a bit outrageous. I think so too. When I first said this bet, I thought it was outrageous. I didn't expect. The audience off the field was even more boiling, basically two types. I'm willing to admit defeat. It was agreed at the beginning, and both sides agreed. If it feels outrageous, why did you agree again at the beginning? At this time, the judges came out and said, "What is this?" That's right. If this were replaced by Lin Fan, would you say that? Not with prejudice. 9, yes. I'm afraid if Lin Fan loses, ask Nakiri Ji, will he let him go? You can't say that. This is the chef cooking 117 dishes, and it's not a fight. So what is it? I think so too. Such an outrageous bet should have been stopped at the beginning. A pair of hands is the life of a chef. No one can be without hands. It's interesting what you said. The meaning of the existence of the halberd is that you can take anything as a bet, as long as it is equal or the other party agrees. Why is it not recognized now? I just can't get up. As a rebel, you should know that if you lose, you are willing to admit defeat. Inside the venue, the voices on both sides became louder and louder. There was even an argument and a quarrel. Nakiri Thistle is still a little stunned and can't accept it for a while. However, Lin Fan had already walked up to him. Nakiri Thistle suddenly became indifferent to the boy in front of him. His face was expressionless, his eyes were deep, and he had a scheming look. This kind of expression can only accumulate after going through countless things, and it is an expression that has been precipitated by time. Watching Nakiri Thistle suddenly stand upright, Lin Fan showed a faint smile. This smile seemed a little weird to Nakiri Ji. Lin Fan smiled and said, "Senior Nakiri, no matter what, these hands are the bet we made before we started eating halberds, right? In that case, then if you get started, I will reluctantly do so." 39. Nakiri Thistle was taken aback. At this moment, he didn't know how to answer, and his body subconsciously took 2 steps back. However, next, without hesitation, Lin Fan picked up a slender kitchen knife. Kakaka! It was just a blink of an eye, and everyone still didn't react. Ah! The next second, Nakiri Thistle screamed. Wow, the crowd took a deep breath. Come back to your senses and take a closer look. The hands of Nakiri Thistle are still there, but seeing his 2 hands instinctively want to cover the other. But it seems to be a little powerless, and I don't know how to start. Exclaimed. Lin Fan calmly smiled and said, "Senior also knows that I can dismember a cow in an instant. Not just for an instant, but easily avoids all the capillaries, but also the fleshy fibers so that it doesn't bleed a drop of blood. So, what's so difficult for me with just a mere severed nerve?" 55. The 3 judges stood up instantly. What? Broken the nerve in the hand? In this case, even if the hands seem to be fine, they are actually abolished. Yeah, there is no way to feel the ingredients and temperature with your hands. The most important thing is that you can't use force. For chefs, this is abolished because there is no way to cook. This is outrageous. It's impossible. The boiling point off the field has reached an unprecedented height. I saw Lin Fan still as if nothing had happened and smiled. I could have done it so that the seniors didn't feel any pain and didn't even notice it, but I don't want to do that because it's the price you lose to me. 35. 10 fingers seem to be able to move normally, but they can't do anything anymore, let alone want to pick up a kitchen knife and pick up ingredients. I think it makes sense to eat halberd like this, because the so-called halberd is to bet everything and can only go all out without retreating. Looking at Tsuki's halberd, dropping out of school, dropping out of the circle, it doesn't hurt or itches. Even if he is no longer in the food circle, that person can still do other things, and he can also become prosperous in other circles through his previous achievements and connections. Such halberd eating is meaningless, and it doesn't fit the cruel survival system of Tsuki. So, here, I'm saying something by the way. Having said that, Lin Fan turned his head to look off the court and continued to say, I can't control others in the future, but today I put my words here. I know that there are not a few people who don't like me and who don't accept me. There are also many people who want to challenge me and try their own skills. I'm here to tell you that if you want to challenge at your door, it's totally fine. But my bet is this. Either you take your life or your most important hand as a cook. 35. This also saves everyone's time. Don't let all the cats and dogs come to the door. I have to go to eat halberds one by one, so I have to be busy. Okay, today's halberd is here. It's time to stop this farce of Tsuki. With that said, Lin Fan turned his gaze to the rebels again. And you, I'm saying it one last time, don't play those little thoughts behind your back. 35. From today onwards, whether you accept it or not, you are all my slaves for the rest of your life. 35. If there's a next time, Lin Fan turned back and looked at the Nakiri thistle who was trying to sense it with both hands. He's your fate, even. It's worse than this. After speaking, Lin Fan ignored the media audience in the venue and left, leaving a group of terrified, astonished people. After coming out of the venue, Lin Fan received a call. Chapter 171 about the matter of the president and the engagement. For subscription, Lin Fan received a call. The number was not saved, but it was familiar. Hey, Lin Fan picked up the phone. On the other end of the phone, the other party's voice was old but powerful and very familiar. It's Nakiri Senzaman. Nakiri Senzaman. Lin Fan, I already know what happened between the moon and the sky just now. I don't have an opinion about this decision you made, but if you're free now, you can come to the Nakiri's house. Lin Fan was puzzled and asked, Senior, is there anything I can't say on the phone? Tsuki still has a lot of things to do, such as the current moon festival. Before Lin Fan could finish speaking, Nakiri Senzaman replied, You're here to talk. I think it's better not to talk about it. Lin Fan had no choice but to respond. Lin Fan didn't know what was going on, but the old man spoke mysteriously. I didn't think about anything else, so I had to go. Nakiri Family Mansion. This is Lin Fan's second time here. Different from the first time, Lin Fan was already recognized by the servants inside. Open the door quickly. The butler immediately greeted him with a smile on his face. Lin Fan is here. Welcome. Welcome. The master has been waiting for a long time. 5. As the butler spoke, he led Lin Fan inside. When the servants who cleaned the courtyard saw this, they also whispered behind their backs. Hey, he's Lin Fan. Did you hear that? Just now, he defeated that person and even took a pair of hands. No way. A pair of hands? Just cut it off like this? I can't see that this young man is so ruthless. Is that why the Lord came to him? I heard that in the blink of an eye, just like him, the man's hand was abolished in an instant. It's terrifying. How could such a quiet boy strike so ruthlessly? You said that the master came to him because of this matter. I do not know. Lin Fan listened to the words of the servants without missing a word. Still a little puzzled, Nakiri Thistle, Irina's biological father. Nakiri Mana, Irina's biological mother. But Nakiri Mana is the biological daughter of Nakiri Senzaman. And the only possibility is that Nakiri Thistle is a surname and uses the surname of Nakiri. No matter what, it's useless to think about it now until you see the old man. The housekeeper led Lin Fan to the front of the bookstore. Stop and knock on the door. Master, Lin Fan is here. After a while, I heard a voice inside. Oh, let him in. The housekeeper pushed the door open and politely motioned to Lin Fan to let him in. Lin Fan nodded. Entering the room, Nakiri Senzaman was looking at something. Hearing Lin Fan coming in, he turned around. It was only then that Lin Fan could see clearly that Nakiri Senzaman was holding this album. He motioned for Lin Fan to sit down. The old man walked over silently and handed the album to Lin Fan. This behavior is puzzling. Lin Fan took the album and opened it, and there were pages and pages of photos inside. They are about the same age. From the perspective of appearance characteristics, it is somewhat similar to Nakiri Mana, as well as Azumi Nakiri. At this time, the old man sighed and said, "You should be a little confused, right? Irina's mother is my biological daughter, so her biological father. You are a smart person. You should be able to think of it. You are a child." Nakiri Ji was originally named Kai Nakamura Ji, and he was an out-and-out genius boy. I'm very accomplished in cooking, and finally, I agreed to marry my daughter to him. 35 only. You should already know this guy's philosophy. Also because of this always wrong and paranoid concept, Irina brought her great harm in her childhood. 5. That's why I was kicked out of Nakiri's house, even to find out everything about him and Suki. What I didn't expect was that he was back again, the same as before. But Lin Fan, you are truly special. I have never met a student as good as you. Your ability to handle affairs is also very strong. I think today's incident was brought about by that guy. Actually, I think it's okay for you to lead Suki. So, I have an idea that 0. Ask for flowers 00 Nakiri Senzaman paused, thought about it, and said, "Would you like to marry Irina? I mean, she's your fiancée now. After you graduate, I believe in your ability. If Suki lets you take care of it, it will definitely get better and better. After all, it's the beginning. As long as you can win the elite chef competition, you can shine on the blue. By that time, Suki will be able to return to the public eye and return to its former glory." .99 The old man's words made Lin Fan feel very sudden. Seeing Lin Fan's hesitation, Nakiri Senzaman immediately said, "I mean, you don't need to be in the family. Just keep your original name." Lin Fan took a deep breath. This was indeed a bit sudden. It's even a little weird. Thinking about it carefully, that eldest lady, who has a bad head in Sundara, is her fiancée wife? Thinking about the gentle and virtuous Tadakuro Megumi, even Irina's little cousin Alice, is more reliable than this. So Lin Fan got up and smiled. Senior's words are a bit too sudden. 35? I have no way to promise you like this. Let me think about it. Nakiri Senzaman immediately replied, "As long as you agree, not only the head of Totsuki Academy, but Totsuki Resort will also have your shares." Lin Fan still smiled. "Chief, according to the current situation of Totsuki, I want to restore this school to its former glory. Depending on the current group of students in the school, it's still a little slim. However, at the moment, I'm the only one who can control Totsuki's situation. Although some people are unconvinced, but even so, my strength can't allow them to be presumptuous, right? So, even if I didn't have Irina's tie, the position of the chief, if I said I wanted to win it, would you refuse? Faced with a helpless and powerful person, when this person may become an enemy, isn't it the most efficient way to win over him?" Nakiri Senzaman smiled after hearing that. Point 0. Chapter 172, The Collapsed Nakiri Irina. Subscribe. Nakiri Senzaman smiled meaningfully. All along, the old man has always known that Lin Fan is secretive and his mind is too mature for ordinary people. Unexpectedly, the teenage hot-blooded youth in front of Senzaman could see things so clearly. This is completely inconsistent with Lin Fan's age experience. But Senzaman had to admit that it really happened. I feel more and more that a rare talent like Lin Fan cannot let him slip away so easily. So, Nakiri Senzaman continued to laugh. I think you can think about it. With the strength of the Nakiri family, you will avoid many detours in the future. Although you know that you can achieve it yourself, but you can obviously save time and energy Why not save it? Lin Fan nodded and said with a smile, I will consider the senior's suggestion carefully. Then, 7, if there is nothing else, I will not bother here. 99 after speaking. Nakiri Senzaman was silent. Lin Fan motioned to turn around and left. Back at Polar Star Dorm, as expected, the group prepared a sumptuous dinner for Lin Fan. As soon as he pushed the door in, Yoshino Yuki jumped on Lin Fan instantly. The busy man is finally back. Mother Wenshu started preparing a sumptuous dinner early in the morning. Everyone is hungry, hurry up. While talking, Yoshino Yuki grabbed Lin Fan's arm and walked towards the dining room. The Polar Star dorm members are all there. Tadakuro Megumi came out with a plate and was happy to see Lin Fan. Don't get up and come over. Leave the kitchen to us. Go and rest for a while. You'll be able to eat right away. Lin Fan was not polite and replied directly, Everyone is an old acquaintance, so I will be welcome. With that said, Lin Fan walked to the dining table and sat down. Ishiki Satoshi just came back and saw Lin Fan, still with that easygoing smile. Squinting, he silently walked over and sat down, holding a basket of vegetables and fruits. It's just picked in the yard. It's very fresh. You can eat it later. Saying that, he handed Lin Fan a tomato. Lin Fan took it, always feeling that Ishiki Satoshi had something to say. So he asked, Do you have something to say to me, senior? Otherwise, as usual, you would have gone into the kitchen to help. Ishiki Satoshi thought for a while, then smiled. Sure enough, nothing can escape your eyes. Having said this, Ishiki Satoshi opened his eyes and said seriously, The matter of today, that's Nakiri Thistle. Your actions completely shocked the inside and outside of the circle, and now no one is no longer discussing the matter of Shurji. You are really hot. It may not be a good thing. How many pairs of eyes are watching? I think it's better to be more restrained, otherwise. Lin Fan replied indifferently. I don't think it's anything. Isn't it a matter of course to be willing to admit defeat? I'm just saying that if the one who loses today is me, will they let me go easily? The answer is obvious, of course not. So if there is something, just let it go. Since I have chosen this path, I must be well prepared and fully confident. Ishiki Satoshi continued. It is impossible to be 100% sure about anything. 35 Lin Fan laughed. Anything, yes, except cooking. So don't worry. You don't have to worry about it. The most important thing right now is the elite chef competition in 3 days. Seeing that it was useless to say more, Ishiki Satoshi had no choice but to nod his head. After dinner, the members of Polar Star Dorm were still unsure. Yoshino Yuki has always been dragging Lin Fan, wanting to go to Marui Zenji's house and continue to hold a small party. Seeing that there was nothing to do at night, Lin Fan followed the group to prepare to go upstairs. Then the phone rang. Picking it up and looking at it, the first reaction was stunned. The name Nakiri Irina appeared prominently on the screen. It's kind of strange. Nakiri Irina's phone number was just a courtesy deposit during the Elite 10 Council meeting. Lin Fan never thought that this number would appear. For Nakiri Irina, who has always been tsundere, it is indeed a bit strange to be able to take the initiative to call Lin Fan. Hey, Lin Fan picks up the phone. She was still thinking about what Irina was going to say to herself. Unexpectedly, the next second, Nakiri Irina's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. There was even a hint of crying in the voice. Hey, Lin Fan? I'm afraid. I don't know what to do. I just thought of your phone and called. Lin Fan, who has always been calm and composed, was shocked to zero. Such a noble princess in front of her would be shocked by her reaction at this moment. Without thinking much, Lin Fan asked, Where are you? Nakiri Irina was choked up, and she could hear in her voice that she was about to collapse. General sobbing, while saying, at home. Lin Fan didn't think about anything else, and immediately replied, Then wait for me at home. Don't run around. 35 Nakiri Irina. Lin Fan hung up the phone immediately. A member of Polar Star Dorm, looking at him with a bewildered expression. Mito Yumei was the first to react and asked, Who is that? Is there anything important? 5 Lin Fan calmly said, It's Nakiri. Listen to the voice on her phone. I'm afraid something happened. I'm going over now. You guys can play first. When Mito Yumei heard this, she immediately became anxious. After all, Eizan Zhijin is also the adult she most admires, so he hurriedly followed Lin Fan and said, although I don't know what will happen in the Nakiri mansion. 5. I'll go with you. Lin Fan didn't speak, tacitly. Behind him, Totsuki followed closely and said anxiously, and me, I'll go with you too, one more person and one more helper. Having said that, Totsuki turned around again and said, everyone, the three of us should go first. At present, 0.0 has not figured out the situation, and it is not good for a large group of people to go. 9. If there's really something wrong, it's not too late to ask you to help. 35. The rest of the Polar Star dorm members nodded. Totsuki turned around and followed Lin Fan. Nakiri family residence along the way, Lin Fan picked up the pace. It was late at night, and it was raining lightly. The three braved the rain to pump all the way to Nakiri's house. As soon as he walked to the front door, the butler rushed out to greet him. Lin Fan, you are finally here. Master went out after seeing you in the afternoon, and I haven't contacted you now. Little Miss is at home. Hey, you go and have a look first. Chapter 173, Fleeing Overnight. Preparing for the game, please subscribe. As the butler spoke, he led Lin Fan and his party inside. Lin Fan had time to think about what happened. Could it be that the princess of Tsundere is losing her temper at home? But Lin Fan shouldn't be like this from the usual temperament of Nakiri Irina. Maybe if it were her little cousin Alice. Inside the mansion, as soon as he entered the door, Lin Fan saw the servants in the house, one by one like wooden stakes, standing there, bowing their heads and saying nothing. Seeing Lin Fan coming in, he just glanced out of the corner of his eye and never raised his head. But Irina's voice was faintly heard. I kept thinking about it, but I couldn't hear what was being said until Lin Fan walked into the hall. In the huge and luxurious living room, Irina sat on the sofa, holding her head in her hands and swaying constantly. There was something in his mouth all the time, but Lin Fan couldn't hear it from the beginning to the end. When Mito Yumei saw this, she was terrified and hurried forward, but was stopped by Lin Fan. Totsuki worried. Nakiri-san, what's going on? Saying 08. He also wanted to go up, but was stopped by Lin Fan. Lin Fan motioned to Mito Yumei and Totsuki, who were waiting in place, looking at their eyes. He walked forward silently. Nakiri Irina seemed stunned. Even Lin Fan came over, but he didn't notice it and was still talking about what it was. The expression was extremely frightened and collapsed. Irina. Irina? Lin Fan tried to call her. Nakiri Irina shook her head and said, sure enough, is that so? Food is like art. Only a few people can understand. What the general public eats is just fodder. How could they possibly master this exquisite art? The right to create this gastronomic art should be reserved only for a few elite chefs. 35. Ordinary chefs only need to follow the rules step by step. Yes, it is like this. Nakiri Irina kept talking. Lin Fan sat in front of her and said, what are you talking about? It's not what you think it is. If it's what you said, what is our effort today? Isn't that superfluous? And the fact proves that his rhetoric is nothing but his selfish and arbitrary, self-righteous thoughts. Doesn't our success explain it all? Lin Fan put his tone soft and gentle and spoke slowly. After listening to Nakiri Irina, she slowly raised her head and looked at Lin Fan. With tears in his eyes, he shook his head and said, it's you? It was so scary. I still feel terrified just thinking about it now. 39. Saying that, Nakiri Irina suddenly looked terrified. Pushing Lin Fan away, he shook his head and said, no, imperfect dishes cannot be forgiven. Except for the dishes that Dad admits. All other dishes are garbage. Yes, so what if you win? Dad is right. Lin Fan was stunned. He hadn't thought about this person, the indifferent princess of Tsundere. During childhood, he may have suffered some unknown shadows. So that's how it is. Looking at Nakiri Irina, emotions seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Lin Fan still patiently said, Irina, be more rational. Your father has become the past tense. No matter what you've been through or how much you believe in. Just today, you made them past tense with your own hands. If you beat him, You can't prove that all this is absurd. Then what else can you believe in this world? Nakiri Arena seems to have listened. Turning around, looking at Lin Fan, he whispered, "Has ended? Then why did my father come just now?" Lin Fan nodded and smiled. "Yes, it's over. It's just a last-ditch effort. No matter what terrible things happened, it's all over. In the future, you will no longer have to deliberately ignore the hard work of others and suppress your true emotions. You don't have to pretend to be ruthless in front of people, and you don't have to be restricted from creating dishes. In front of you is a new life. You'll reap your friends." Saying that, Lin Fan turned around and looked at Mito Yumei and Tadakoro Megumi. The two nodded with a smile. Lin Fan continued, "More importantly, you don't get those rules. Point 35. You can show your creative talents infinitely and present those dishes perfectly to the world." Nakiri Arena opened her eyes wide and looked at Lin Fan. After a while, he said, "Really? Is this really possible?" Lin Fan smiled and said, "Why not?" Nakiri Arena thought for a while, looked at the house, and showed panic again. "I want to get out of here." Lin Fan thought for a while, then looked at Mito Yumei and Tadakoro Megumi, and laughed. "I think that's what we're here for." After speaking, Lin Fan gave Nakiri Arena a look. Nakiri Arena immediately understood and said in surprise, "Now?" Lin Fan nodded and said, "Otherwise, let's go." After speaking, stand up and stretch out your hand. Nakiri Arena was still surprised and looked at it. Then, taking a deep breath with a firm expression, he put his hand on Lin Fan's hand and stood up. Seeing this, Tadakoro Megumi hurriedly said, "It's not too late, then let's go." 99, stay here for a while. Maybe something will happen. The four nodded after listening. Lin Fan took Nakiri Arena's hand and went out together. When the raindrops came, they became bigger. Without any hesitation, Nakiri Arena took Lin Fan and rushed out despite the advice of the servants and housekeepers. Seeing this, Mito Yumei and Tadakoro Megumi followed in their footsteps. The four ran wild in the heavy rain. Nakiri Arena has never thought about this moment, and she feels so relaxed both physically and mentally. Pulled Lin Fan and ran in the rain just like that. There is no restraint, no need to consider other people's vision or other people's pointing. It wasn't until half an hour later that the four finally returned to Polar Star Dorm. Nakiri Arena, standing in front of Polar Star Dorm, this place is not unfamiliar to her. She has been here before. Seeing this, Lin Fan smiled and said, "Welcome to the new member of Polar Star Dorm." Chapter 174 Special Opponent. Everyone looked back and was shocked. At the gate, Nakiri Arena stood, her clothes soaking wet from the rain. As I ran all the way, I felt a little coolness while panting. Large drops of water fell from Nakiri Arena's hair. Everyone was surprised. Yoshino Yuki ran over happily. After taking a quick look at Nakiri Arena, he smiled. "Nakiri classmate. Forget it. Don't say anything. Just change your clothes. You'll catch a cold when it's cold." After speaking, he looked back and continued. "Just in time, we are also waiting for Lin Fan to come back for dinner. Let's go together. Today's table of sumptuous food is specially prepared by Mother Wenshu for Lin Fan and everyone." Yoshino Yuki looked at Nakiri Arena. The eldest lady of Tsundere stood there all the time, not moving. Stunned, Tadakoro Megumi hurriedly stepped forward and said with a smile, "Nakiri-san, come with me. I'll lend you my clothes for the time being." Saying that, Tadakoro Megumi gently pulled Nakiri Arena's hand. He smiled at her and motioned her to go upstairs. Nakiri Arena was still stunned, a little overwhelmed, but don't know what to do. So, I nodded and followed Tadakoro Megumi's footsteps upstairs. Yoshino Yuki laughed from behind. "Nakiri-san, everyone is waiting for you." Nakiri Arena looked and said nothing. This should be the second time she has gotten along with so many classmates in this way since the last meeting. Nakiri Arena also looked back as he went upstairs. Downstairs, Yoshino Yuki is playing with the other members. This state made her think of her cousin Alice. She is also a girl with a true temperament, and her joys, sorrows are all expressed on her face. Unlike Arena, who grew up without friends. I don't even know that it turns out that friends can get along in such a way. Is it the so-called friendship? While thinking about it, Tadakoro Megumi pushed open the door of a room and rummaged through the closet for a change of clothes for Nakiri Arena. Tadakoro Megumi laughed. Let's just make do with it. Nakiri Arena took the clothes, but replied, Yoshino Yuki just now seemed very angry. What happened to Marui Zenji? Tadakoro Megumi was stunned and smiled. Oh, just kidding. They're going to play like this every now and then. Marui-san said those words on purpose. It's just a joke. Yoshino-san won't be really angry. Got used to it. Nakiri-san will find out later. Marui-san isn't looking angry. Every time people take up his room for a party, he just breaks down. Tadakoro Megumi said with a smile. Nakiri Irina nodded silently. But she still had doubts in her heart. She didn't understand why she wasn't angry when Yoshino Yuki was offended. Nakiri Irina did not directly ask her doubts. Strong self-esteem ensues. After changing clothes, Nakiri Irina went downstairs together. At this time, Mito Yumei and Lin Fan were in the dining room early. Seeing a group of them playing and fighting, Nakiri Irina walked over silently, didn't speak, and sat down to observe. Even Zhijin Mito Yumei, after staying in Polar Star dorm, can now mingle with them. After running out of Nakiri's mansion, Irina wanted to change. She also wants to be like Mito Yumei, who can put down the air and play with friends without heart. You can also tell your troubles to your friends. But it was just a thought. Nakiri Irina didn't do that. Dinner officially started. This special dinner let Nakiri Irina know that she has a further understanding of friends and friendship. Also from this moment, Nakiri Irina officially joined Polar Star Dorm. Become a member of Polar Star Dorm. Next morning today is a special day. In the Elite Chef competition, Lin Fan, as the first student in the school group, will challenge the first place in the Elite Graduate group. However, Lin Fan, today's challenger, seems to be a little special. Surprisingly, no one expected that this elite graduate would break out of the siege. She is the second seat of Elite 10 in the 89th issue, Kikuchi Orchard. Lin Fan has never seen him, and his reputation is out there. On the way to the venue, a group of students chatted in groups of 3 or 5. I'm talking about Kikuchi Orchard. This senior is really amazing. I didn't expect it to be her. Yeah, in the finals, everyone thought Tsunezaki Taki would win. After all, Senpai is so gentle. I didn't expect that under this gentle appearance, there's a super strength and tenacious heart hidden, right? Yes, this senior is also a talented girl. You can start your own business within 2 years of graduation. It's called Chungwoding, right? It's a Western restaurant, very famous in the industry. 35, the key is the key. This senior has a characteristic. The students began to laugh aloud as they talked. Lin Fan didn't know what the more distinctive senior sister they were talking about looked like. When I walked outside the venue, I saw a long-haired girl walking in front of me. I didn't need to worry about it, but Lin Fan suddenly walked up to a girl with a ponytail and a serious expression. Hey, big-breasted monster. Lin Fan was stunned. The girl in front turned back. Lin Fan took a deep breath. The girl turned her head back with a relaxed expression on her face. Compared with the strong girl next to her, she belongs to the weak and bullied side. The girl smiled awkwardly. It's such a coincidence. You are here too. The girl with the ponytail replied indifferently. Of course. How could I miss this good show today? Didi Zhao. I'd also like to see how well you, the youngest in the industry, who can compete with the most professional chefs, Kikuchi Orchard, can perform today. Kikuchi Orchard? Lin Fan whispered. It turns out that the girl in front of her, with a rather special appearance, is Lin Fan's opponent today, Mu Juji Orchard. But soon, Kikuchi Orchard noticed Lin Fan. Leaving Tsunezaki Taki behind, he asked in surprise, Lin Fan. Tsunezaki Taki turned his face and looked at Lin Fan before he could speak. I saw Lin Fan walked over quickly and said with a smile, I didn't expect to meet senior sister here. What a special senior. I hope you can cheer today. After speaking, Lin Fan strode ahead of the two. Tsunezaki Taki said in surprise, It's really Lin Fan, and his words are really arrogant. Chapter 175, The Kitchen Knife with 100 Holes, is amazing. Subscribe. On the stage, Rei Kawashima is still the host. Still with a cute expression, he stood on the stage and made a head tilt. The students off the field screamed wildly. With this scream, Lin Fan silently walked onto the stage. Mokuji Orchard, who was standing beside him, never left Lin Fan's eyes. Keep looking at him until Lin Fan's eyes focused on her. Kikuchi Orchard seemed a little flustered again. Lin Fan looked at this girl who seemed to have a very weak personality and could never imagine how she could break out of such a cruel elite group. Maybe, as Tsunezaki Taki said, there is something special about it. Kawashima Rei walked between the two. Subconsciously, he also looked at Kikuchi Orchard. This senior also smiled kindly. Kawashima Rei smiled and said, I didn't expect that the champion in the elite group was actually you, senior. As expected of Tsunezaki Taki, both of them are also known as the youngest professional chef. However, even Tsunezaki Taki was defeated by Senpai. So in today's competition, Lin Fan-san should be careful. If Lin Fan loses, then Senpai will successfully enter the showdown of guest chefs. In that case, I can compete with the guest chefs one by one. Wow, that's true. Everyone must be looking forward to it. 117-inch, the audience complied. Kawashima Rei looked at Lin Fan again and smiled. Of course, we are also very much looking forward to Lin Fan, who will compete with the elite chefs who are guest stars. Saying that, Kawashima Rei motioned to the staff and brought up the box that was drawn. Still the same, to grab the ingredients of this field. Just take out a card and open it. He is very familiar with the process, as if he is the full-time host of Lin Fan. Looking at the card, Kawashima Rei's expression was a little puzzled. Then he said the subject is nothing? What does it mean? Meaning food and not food? 35 after speaking, he shook his head and said, it shouldn't be so superficial. Could it be? What you see with the naked eye is different, AAA, from the actual food after you eat it? Is it like the molecular cuisine from a group? Speaking of which, Kawashima Rei tilted her head again and smiled. Okay, the theme of this round has been selected. As for how the two of you will understand, then there will be an hour of cooking time to show you. This round of competition has officially started. 35 after Kawashima Rei finished speaking, she retreated to the corner. Such a process is not too familiar to Lin Fan. No stress, just feel normal. Because just when he knew the theme, Lin Fan had already thought of a great dish. However, when walking towards the ingredient section, Kikuchi Orchard also followed. This flamboyant senior sister couldn't help but take a second look at the junior next to her. This is Tsuki's best student this year, probably not one of them. Kikuchi Orchard thought so. After all, Lin Fan used the fastest speed to show everyone what is the ability to be suffocating. Recalling the chance encounter at the door just now, I can't help but look at Lin Fan's appearance again. Sunshine, handsome, especially when smiling. No girl should be able to resist. No matter what, I can't help but take a few more glances. When Lin Fan noticed that Kikuchi Orchard was watching him, subconsciously, he turned his face to the side, focusing on the eyes of the other party. The special senior next to Lin Fan seemed a little nervous. Her cheeks were slightly flushed, and she was a little embarrassed. He quickly avoided his eyes, pretended to be calm, and began to choose ingredients. Squid. Lin Fan didn't care and began to choose ingredients carefully. Non-things. The first thing he can think of is that the cooked ingredients will numb the viewer's senses. I thought it was a certain ingredient, but in fact, after eating in my mouth, it was a wonderful combination after the combination of another ingredient. So Lin Fan immediately grabbed some dried squid. Then, a fresh snapper was taken out. Seeing this, Kawashima Rei, who was attentive and keen, hurriedly followed. Quickly asked, it's fresh snapper again. Are you still going to make sashimi today? Or do you want to take out the ice blade of the Beichun Heavenly Wolf Blade? If that's the case. Speaking of which, Kawashima Rei faced the audience with a face of surprise. Everyone, if that's the case, it's a feast for the eyes. 35. Last time when Lin Fan used the Beichun Heavenly Wolf Blade, I didn't have time to appreciate it because I was too focused on explaining it. If there is still a chance to see Lin Fan use the Beichun Heavenly Wolf Blade, then I will have no regrets in my life. Kawashima Rei said with a look of anticipation. Lin Fan held the ingredients and smiled as he walked. Beichin Heavenly Wolf Blade? That's not something you can just take out and display. Certainly, another knife to show today. Kawashima Rei was surprised. Before asking, Lin Fan silently walked to his kitchen box. After opening it, carefully rummaged and found a kitchen knife. When he took it out, everyone didn't dare to blink and stare at the big screen. However, the kitchen knife in Lin Fan's hand from the outside is not as domineering and dazzling as the Garuda knife and the Yonling knife. It is not like the Beichin Heavenly Wolf Blade, with its own special effects halo, which shocked the four in an instant. In the eyes of everyone, this kitchen knife is truly a kitchen knife used by Chinese chefs to cut vegetables. Even more common, Kawashima Rei didn't question directly. After all, she hosted all the way. Lin Fan has done countless things beyond imagination. Even now, she doesn't quite believe how powerful this kitchen knife can be. But he still couldn't help asking, "Student Lin, does this knife have a name?" Lin Fan calmly smiled and said, "Yes, 100-point sword." Rei Kawashima was puzzled and didn't have time to ask. Then, Lin Fan placed the snapper on the cutting board, and when the first knife slashed on the fish, everyone was shocked. This kitchen knife is surprisingly sharp. With just a light stroke, the snapper splits in half instantly. In one stroke, an even more surprising thing happened. I saw that the 100-point knife in Lin Fan's hand was bent when he was handling the fishbone. Chapter 175, Face Not Face, overwhelmed the audience for subscription. To everyone's surprise, the kitchen knife with 100 holes in Lin Fan's hand was bent like a thin sheet. After a knife cut, the curved blade returned to normal again, very elastic. Kawashima Rei exclaimed, "What a powerful kitchen knife. It has such great elasticity. Let me just say, Lin Fan can't come out with mediocre kitchen utensils." But before Kawashima Rei could speak, Lin Fan quickened his hand. Whoosh whoosh, the 100-hole knife is on the snapper to quickly remove the fishbone. Due to the special elasticity of the blade, the fishbone can be removed very skillfully at the corners of the ingredients. The whole process is also very fast. A well-handled, fresh snapper on a cutting board. Kawashima Rei couldn't help but ask curiously, "Can you tell me a little bit about what you want to do?" Look at the appearance of the knife. It's not sashimi. And miraculously, the fish was so clean too. Just by seeing the fishbone on the side, I can deal with them so quickly, all because of this bouncy knife. After Lin Fan heard this, he smiled and said, "Not only that, this knife is not only flexible, it also has a most critical point. Because of this core, it makes it easier to handle ingredients." With that said, Lin Fan took the 100 points, sword in his hand, and raised his arm. Put in the spotlight. Once again, Lin Fan showed off his amazing kitchen utensils in front of everyone. Everyone in the arena has almost the same expression. He grew his mouth and stretched his neck, trying to see the Baishue kitchen knife clearly. When the spotlight hit the kitchen knife, the light directly passed through the blade and hit Lin Fan's face. At this time, all the talents discovered that there were countless small holes in the body of the knife. Kawashima Rei said puzzled, "Wow, if you hadn't held it under the light, you wouldn't have found it at all. It turns out that there are countless small round holes in this knife. It's not just me. Everyone here should have rarely seen such a kitchen knife." 99, what is the effect? Kawashima Rei asked very professionally, and from time to time made a head tilt. Lin Fan said with a smile, "There are hundreds of small holes on the kitchen knife. The purpose of this is to make the ingredients cut through the kitchen knife not easily attach to the knife and affect the operation. Because of the air circulation, plus it's elastic. As a result, the ingredients can be handled very easily and maximize the taste of the ingredients." 35 Kawashima Rei nodded one after another. It's amazing to be able to think of this level. Lin Fan really has a very unique perspective on cooking. 5. There should be very few chefs who think about this layer. In this way, the cut ingredients are made more perfect, and correspondingly, the taste will be better. It really taught me another lesson. 99. I'm looking forward to your next product. If it's mainly sea bream, what will you do? Can you tell me a little bit? While speaking, Kawashima Rei blinked her eyes, showing a cute look. This trick works for everyone. I thought to myself, as long as I act like a spoiled child, Lin Fan will obediently say it. Not at all. Lin Fan shook his head and smiled. It's still a secret for now. If you say it now, it will be nothing new later. Having said that, Lin Fan continued to process the ingredients. The whole snapper will be cleaned and the head cut off. Then divide the fish into 2 halves, put a little seasoning, roll them up, and tie them with cotton thread. Kawashima Rei stood on the side and watched. Lin Fan didn't seem to want to communicate with her. Seeing that it was boring, I simply went to the Mokuji orchard. Lin Fan took the fish out of the casserole and put the fish head and fish roll into the pot together. This operation is easy to understand. It is to make fish soup. After opening fire, Lin Fan took 2 more snappers. Still repeat the steps, just now to quickly clean the fish. At this time, the boiled fish gradually exudes a fresh fragrance. Lin Fan once again made everyone confused. The fish soup has already been boiled, and it is still treated in the same way. So what are these 2 fish to do? Next, Lin Fan leaned down, took out the steel rod from the kitchen utensils box again. Wow, the originally quiet venue was boiling again. This sudden excitement seemed to add fresh blood to the lifeless picture. 0. As for flour 00, finally, Lin Fan's steel rod has been taken out again. Did you see in the close-up? There's another row of 5-pointed stars. Sure enough, every time you win, you need 1 more. Since watching Lin Fan's cooking competition, it's boring to watch other people's. Yes, the audience's taste has become tricky. It's all Lin Fan is used to. Indeed, if this steel rod hadn't been taken out at this pace, I might have fallen asleep. On the field, Lin Fan quickly split the steel rod into 2 pieces. Dong 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 skilled, quickly mashed the fish in the stainless steel pot. The strength of the steel rod can be just right, pounding the fish very delicately, bounces and smooth. Dong dong dong, the sound of pounding meat is very rhythmic. The audience off the field cheered excitedly with the rhythm. It's still this kind of game. It looks like it can make people feel sweaty. Come on, Lin Fan. Hey, why doesn't anyone pay attention to Shimoji Kuchi Orchard? Her aura is so weak. Yeah, it was originally this kind of soft character in the face of an exposed opponent like Lin Fan. Even if her cooking skills are very strong, the limelight will be suppressed. No, you're wrong. So far, after fighting against Lin Fan, he has always been brilliant. Wow, during the discussion, Lin Fan opened the soup pot. The fresh aroma of fish and meat burst out together with the mist. Make the atmosphere in the venue reach its peak again. At this time, Lin Fan put the minced fish into the soup pot. Then, take out the fish roll that has absorbed all the essence. Slice quickly, add the base soup, and remove the fish. All in one go. Simply sprinkle with chopped green onion. Lin Fan smiled and said, "It looks like there's still a lot more time left. My cooking is finished. I ordered noodles to be noodles. Please try them." The 3 judges leaned forward subconsciously and asked curiously, "Face not face? Lin Fan does fish ramen?" Chapter 177, become the most eye-catching person in the country. Subscribe. Pat, pat, pat. The audience clapped involuntarily. At this time, Kikuchi's orchard seemed to be doing the finishing touches. Glancing at Lin Fan, he saw that the other party had finished. There was no impatience, and his expression seemed more determined and serious. Lin Fan will appear in front of the judge's non-face. The 3 judges couldn't wait to lean over to watch. The steaming non-noodles are topped with sliced fish rolls and served with green vegetables. It seems very simple, but the aroma is powerful in bursts. This is ramen? I didn't see you using flour. Could it be? Is it fish meat in the form of ramen? A judge spoke up. Immediately afterwards, the middle judge nodded and said, "It looks like it should be." This kind of cooking method is very special, but it is also very difficult. Plus 99. The temperature control of the fish is very strict. If you don't pay attention, not only will the fish not be formed, but it will not even taste. The last judge also nodded and said, "It is true, but it seems that Lin Fan has solved this problem." Just looking at the appearance, if it weren't for the fact that we watched his cooking process, I'm afraid we would have thought that this is a bowl of ramen. 5. While the judges were talking, Kikuchi Orchard also came over with the dishes. Kikuchi Orchard said, "This is my Italian squid roll." 99, the judges were going to taste Lin Fan's non-face. The moment Kikuchi Orchard served the dishes, the three of them were instantly attracted. In front of them was a whole squid that had been cut into pieces. Inside the squid, it is also stuffed with ingredients. It also looks very appetizing when paired with typical Italian sauces and side dishes. However, the judges still looked at Lin Fan's dish. One judge said, "Both of you've cooked very well. But come first, then let's try this non-face of Lin Fan." 95 as he said that the moment he picked up the noodle bowl, the judge couldn't help but smell again and sighed. The creativity is really good. It's noodles, and it's unconventional and traditional ramen. I don't know how the ramen made from this fish tastes like. 66-inch saying that, pick up a pinch. The judge instantly widened his eyes. The touch of this face is completely different from what I imagined. Another judge also nodded and said, "Yes. Originally, I thought that because of the fish and meat, no matter how I handled it, there was no way to achieve the tenacity of the flour ramen." 99, but this is not inferior to ramen made of flour at all. With that said, the judges couldn't wait to eat it in their mouths. Kakaka moment. The three judges were stunned at the same time. Chew it carefully, swallow it, pick up a large handful again, and gulp it into your mouth again. Next, the three judges did not speak, but they acted as if they had eaten xianmai and could not stop at all. One bite after another. After 3 or 4 mouthfuls, the noodles were all eaten up, and the soup base was also included in one gulp. What's even more exaggerated is that even the few green onions left at the bottom of the bowl were eaten by the three of them with chopsticks. There was an uproar. This bowl of fish noodles is so delicious. It's a bit exaggerated. Don't let go of a green onion. Don't say anything. Just eat it up. Look at the expressions of the judges. The world is extremely delicious. 99. The venue is full of the smell of this fish noodles. But I'm really curious about what it tastes like. I really want to try it, even though it's just my pure idea. However, the squid in the orchard of Kikuchi feels that there is no advantage. There was a lot of discussion. Kikuchi Orchard listened to the words in his ears, but it doesn't seem to have much impact on her, and she still maintains a calm attitude. Occasionally look at Lin Fan, cheeks flushed. It looks so painful. At this time, the judges put down the bowl. A judge shook his head and said excitedly, "I can only use the words too delicious to describe it temporarily." 35, unfinished, really unfinished. If it weren't for the fact that I was trying another dish, I would have asked Lin Fan to make 2 more bowls, even if the price was sky high. Totally not enough. It was so delicious. Another judge was also excited. "Yes, this fish noodle is more perfect than I thought. It's very fresh and tender, but it doesn't lose the Q-bomb. How is this done?" And for the reviewer, he quickly interrupted, "You didn't say the point. The point is, this fish noodle is sandwiched with dried squid in it." When I bit into the ramen and ate the dried squid in it, I was shocked. Dried squid makes this fish noodle more chewy, and it's so fresh to the bone. 39, another judge went on to say, Yes. I thought that if it was soft and refreshing, it would definitely not be strong because of the special taste of fish. If other cooking techniques are used to change the texture of the fish so that it has the tenacity of ramen noodles, it will definitely lose the tenderness of the fish itself. The two are contradictory. However, I never thought that Lin Fan would solve this problem completely. 46-inch Lin Fan laughed. Yes, the answer lies.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.